Welcome everyone to the Public Domain Movie Club's Silent Horror Film Extravaganza. I am back with Matt again today, and we have a special guest.
Hi, I'm
Welcome.
Arachna, the spider people, and this is my friend Deadly, and we host Beware Theater here on this channel. Thank you for carrying us. We host old black and white horror movies from the golden age of black and white. Bad acting, bad directing, cheesy special effects, and lame monsters. What's not to like?
Absolutely. It's a great show, right in line with Public Domain Movie Club. It's what we love to do. We love to show all the artwork that's been passed over, stuff that we can just take out and share with the world. And on that note, too, if you can't get enough of films, what do you have there, Matt?
Oh, conveniently, I have a flyer for our First Friday films. Every First Friday, we're screening independent films from Colorado filmmakers. And yeah, it's been picking up steam, and it's a great way to meet community members, filmmakers, the actors, and it's a really great time.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, so today we're going to jump into the world of silent films. We haven't done that yet on Public Domain, but there's so many great old horror ones as we come into October and Halloween, all the way back to the very beginning, more than 100 years old. We have a whole list of films, and it's just amazing what they were able to do. I don't know if you're familiar. There's one of the first ones. We're going to go to the very first, what is considered the very first horror film.
Really?
By Georges Méliès. I may butcher that name because I don't know French. But he's more well known for A Trip to the Moon. Have you seen that one?
I have. I'm a big fan.
And Arachna, is that how I should address you?
Yes, Arachna is just fine.
I don't need the full title? Okay,
Arachna.
just want to make sure.
And that's my friend Deadly.
And Deadly. Have you guys...
Unfortunately, Deadly can't talk in a way that you can hear him. He talks, only dogs can hear him, so I translate.
That makes sense. Have you or Deadly seen the Trip to the Moon?
Yes, we have. And actually, in the silent movie world, we have actually hosted Nosferatu and Metropolis.
Ooh,
but
classics.
we haven't done Caligari yet.
Those are great. Yeah, Caligari's it's a fun one, and that's going to be our finale, but we got to get there first. There was a lot of work, a lot of it inventing, a lot of finding the way of film and how to work with it to get to Caligari.
Yeah.
And by just some brilliant minds all over the world. There, in my research for this episode, there were films in France, there were films in Italy, England, Germany, the U.S., Japan, Spain, just everywhere. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just amazing that even back then, the ideas were traveling. You'll see these films, you're like, wow, this is across the world, and they were doing similar things.
Right.
The idea started moving with film.
Yeah.
And I think it's just such a cool thing to see.
Yeah, and just seeing the progression too of how simple film started, and it's almost like evolution where with each iteration they get more and more complex.
Yep.
And they all seemed like that they were extending what was being done on the stage, because a lot of these actors were stage actors, and then they also translated into the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. In my reading, Georges Méliès started in theater. I mean, he actually started way away from theater. I don't even remember how many different things he went through before he landed on theater and had his own theater troupe. Their company, they did what was called the fairy play, kind of fantastic, imagination, kind of oriented stuff. And he did a lot of that. And so he immediately brought that into film. Mm-hmm. He saw these films, early films from the Lumiere brothers, was immediately just taken by that, and eventually bought his own. He bought the animatograph, which is just the oldest, earliest cameras. Immediately started making films, and in his lifetime, he made over 500.
Wow.
Yeah, and all these directors that we're going to see tonight made so many films. You're going to probably see me
in some of his own films.
Yeah, he acted. He ended up, his second wife was actually the actress in the film we're going to watch. He did so much, just all these pieces, and was the first person to really test out what you could do with film. Yeah. Although some of that is debatable, as we'll find with a lot of the history tonight. There are a lot of different versions of it. And so you're going to see me, I'm going to probably have to reference my notes here because it gets hard to keep straight. So if I'm looking down, that's where I am.
He's not checking text messages.
Not just texting like "forget you, Nosferatu."
Yeah.
Like
BRB.
I will. It's a lot to keep straight. I've already confused myself enough. But yeah, these first films, there was the very first idea of film with Edward Muybridge at Stanford, where he was just paid to settle a bet of when a horse is running down the racetrack, do all 4 legs leave the ground at the same time, or they're always 1 or 2 on the ground. And there was this rich guy who really liked to bet on random things about horses. And he's like, all right, figure this out for me. So he set up a series of cameras, got them all to trip at the right time, and they put them together like, wait, this horse is now running. And that was kind of the first idea of like, wait a second.
Moving pictures.
Moving pictures. and that all had to come, there's a lot that had to do. I'm actually reading this book right now, The Man Who Invented Movies, about Louis Le Prince, because we're commonly say, went from Edward Muybridge to the Lumiere brothers and Edison. Well, there's this other guy who was a Frenchman who was primarily living in England at the time and then in the U.S., but was back and forth. And he had followed some of the early technology, because for a while, you had to sit 10 minutes for a photo. So doing 25, 30, even the 15 that they were doing back then, 12 that they were doing back then, frames per second to tell a film story was just out of the question. It was like, no, it was 10 minutes per frame does not pull that off. So they finally started upping the technology to where they could do it in a second, in 5 seconds, 10 seconds. Fractions of a second is what they eventually needed. And so they finally got there, and Edward Muybridge was able to kind of piece these last pieces together, and Louis Le Prince came in and invented all this technology. And as this novel is trying to argue that I'm reading, nobody knows what happened, but the theory is that he disappeared. I mean, he did disappear. And the theory is that Edison had something to do with it, because 6 months after he disappeared, he released his first movie camera.
Whoa.
With an almost identical design to what Louis Le Prince had worked on.
Dang.
So again, all the history is convoluted. It's all over the place. But you get from there, and you get the Lumiere brothers, who were the first to, let's film a scene. Let's film something happen. Workers leaving the factory. Then they went on to the train, which everyone freaked out. They thought the train was going to come crashing through the screen when they first projected that. They were the first to really pull together that projection, showing, and everything. And so from there, jump into George Méliès kind of took the reins. And that's where he invented cutting, jump cuts, superimposition, all these techniques that we're going to see through most of the films tonight. George Méliès and a bunch of other French directors, again, this is all up for debate, pioneered these methods. And Edison as well. He wasn't just sitting on the sidelines stealing stuff. They did come up with some stuff over there. So this is actually considered the first horror film. Again, I don't speak French, so I'm going to just skip the French name. It's got 2 translations, which led to confusion later on with his movies. The Haunted Castle and The House of the Devil. So why don't we just jump in and let's watch The House of the Devil.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Now this is fun. You just got the bat kind of popping around.
Ah! That's so scary.
Because of the bat, it led a lot of people to say, oh, look, there it is. Consider this the first vampire film. Not only the first horror film, but maybe the first vampire film.
Very important in vampire history.
Yes. And this is actually just a version of the Faust, which we will see multiple times tonight. That was like the thing to make in the late 1890s, early 1900s, was the story of Faust. So our devil character is Mephistopheles, which is typically a demon who does the devil's bidding to try and convince people to fall into his ways or whatever. Basically, you make it's the deal with the devil. Faust is actually based on a real chemist and scientist. And somebody wrote a story saying he was so smart at this stuff because he made a deal with the devil and lost his soul. And so that's what a lot of these stories are built around.
The updated deal with the devil is subscription services, in my opinion.
There we go.
Because they'll just keep charging you. They'll let you forget.
They just let it go. That's why they have all these apps to tell you which ones you forgot about.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of just jump editing where people are disappearing, which I'm sure at that time was like, oh, this is new technology.
Exactly. It was like...
It takes a lot of timing and placement and blocking to do that.
Yeah.
It really, I've always been, because I've tried stuff like this, and it's not easy to get that timing. And this is one of those that Edison did pioneer what was called the strike or the jump cut. So you strike something out of the picture. But George Méliès really used it and made it his own.
Yeah. And what year was this again?
This was 1896.
Wow.
So in 1897, Méliès made The Haunted Castle. The confusion with that is it's actually just a remake of this. And when they released this one in the U.S., the translation, so in England it was House of the Devil. In the U.S. it was The Haunted Castle.
Oh, geez.
And all of a sudden he made The Haunted Castle. Everybody's like, wait, what?
Right.
So it took a while to really, pull this one together.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, you can really see how it's like a stage play being filmed. So that's where they were from a creative, technical place of like, okay, let's just do it like a play.
Yep.
When we rehearse it and film it just like a play.
The camera sits in one spot, just out front. And yeah, they just built out their full thing. I mean, that's just incredible that they were able to get
There were no green
placement.
screens back then either.
Yeah.
They could sometimes have a double burn on their exposure.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm sure that set is so bright, like to light, like old photography.
Well, and a lot of these were just outside.
Oh,
This was actually in his garden.
Okay.
And at one point he did build basically a big greenhouse to film in, where he built all the sets.
Wow. Yeah, I got to give props. Making movies is difficult even now. So making it back then, I can only imagine. Because you're not seeing that film either for who knows how long, like months.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, not at all. So like you just never know. Yeah, so he made this. Nobody's really certain if he made this at the end of 1896 or the beginning of 1897. It's kind of unclear. So the years just typically listed as 1896. But yeah, it's just one of those. Nobody has seen anything like this. And when it was made, it really wasn't scary. It wasn't really horror. It was kind of more awe-inspiring, like, whoa, things are changing, everything's jumping around.
I think people were enchanted by his tricks.
Yeah.
He had all of these visual tricks, and people were blown away by those.
Yeah.
Wow.
He kind of, I feel like he did like illusions on stage, and so this just worked straight into it. He was kind of an illusionist, I think. Which was really, just a cool way to think about it. Like, this stuff is so basic. They were able to do this more than 100 years ago. And here I am trying to figure out some tricks today, and I'm like, why didn't I just do this?
Right.
That would have been way easier.
Yeah.
Like, now we have so many tools that we overcomplicate the whole process.
Right.
And you're like, this could be easy.
Yeah. And really easy to follow too. Like, okay, these bats are turning into vampires.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah. Without dialogue too. And without even the use of like title cards, like silent films would be like, oh no, a train's coming.
Yeah. Exactly.
You
There's
just
just
went
nothing.
straight for it. Boom.
Yep.
That's world-class storytelling.
Yeah. Yeah. And
It's interesting to, these guys had it in their head, what they wanted to do, and then they made it up as they went along. How am I going to make this happen? And they did it. And it began the whole thing of cinema. How
yeah.
progressed.
Yeah, it is. It's so cool, and you really do. I think that touches on, you really get into cinema. What is cinema? And I think a lot of it is what's just that versus filming. And with this, we get into, Méliès was in a lot of competition with some of the filmmakers we're going to talk about later, and there's debate as to who did what first. Some of it's kind of clear, and some of it's not. And I think the big thing that you find out is these were some of the first filmmakers to do narrative, not just say, hey, here's a person.
Right.
Spinning or dancing.
That was a very popular
is the big
turn
thing.
of the century.
Yeah.
Just get on the stage and dance,
Yep.
and it's like a lady like da-da-da.
Do the ballet,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. Or like, there were a lot of bodybuilders and those kind of things, just
Right.
studying the human form, basically. And so these were some of the first films to add that narrative, which I think is what kind of brings us into cinema.
Yeah.
Having that story layer
Right.
that you just didn't have before.
Right. Yeah. No, because like
And
to me,
also a new way to entertain people. They were used to going to the theater, and this was different. The same, but different.
Yeah.
So it's another way to sell the same story, sort of.
Yeah, you could do these stories, and you could do, you could do that stuff that nobody had ever seen before. Like, wait, that bat now it's a person.
right.
The cauldron just appears.
Right. Something
you could do-
impossible during a stage
Exactly.
play.
Like you could do it to an extent, but not the same. Like,
Right. Immediate. Yeah.
And I think I have to imagine that there was a lot of questioning of reality at the time when people were watching this. Like with the the shot of the train, is it going to crash through the screen and hit us? Is this real? Nobody knew. So what did they think? If that was the response, that's the mythological response. I don't know what people really did, but the story goes that they got up and ran out of the theater. What did they do when they saw this? When they saw demons and bats and all these monsters,
and not even able to like put it into context, right? Because we have such a like informed taste based on how much like TV and movies we've seen. So to like see something that you've never seen before, that must have been a cool moment in human and film history.
Yeah, just that.
I think the other entertainment would be traveling shows. They pull up in their cart, donkey cart, and they put on a little puppet show or something and then leave. So they didn't really have some consistent entertainment.
Yeah, absolutely. And this kind of changed that game where a theater could play that film for so long and just keep going and going and going. And so we start to get into the era of constant entertainment. Not to the level that we have it today by any means, but you start to open that up once you start to have this physical film reel. Just changes everything.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and this is a good starting point. And they moved from there. So we're going to jump ahead now. Oh man, I can do math, right?
Sure.
7 years. So actually in 1897, you did see, Méliès did the first film where, these inanimate objects started to take on roles. Instead of like in this past one, we saw the cauldron appeared and disappears. The bench appears and moves over. Well, we start to see the inanimate objects messing with people. That was in 1897 in the Bewitched Inn. And so this next one that we're going to do, we're going to jump to 1903, another Méliès that he also did. And he basically took that motif and just built on it. So this one is called The Apparition.
Nice. Let's hit it. Not the original soundtrack, I assume.
Not the original soundtrack.
Okay, that'd be way ahead of his time.
Super cool electronic score. And so that is actually George Méliès playing that old man. It'd be impossible to tell because I think he's got like
These are
3
the
faces.
costumes of the day.
Wow.
Yeah, it's so cool
Nice
to.
set painting in the back.
Oh yeah, it is a set painting. So they're playing with perspective and
Yeah. So we'll jump to. We're going to jump from George Méliès' House of the Devil to 1903 with one of his rivals, I guess you could say, maybe, Alice Guy, later Alice Guy Blaché. She was the first known female director.
woo.
Yeah, and there's a lot of argument. This is where some of that argument comes into, these debates, is did she film the first narrative story or not? There was one called The Cabbage Fairy in 1896, which if she made that would have put her beating Méliès to do a narrative story. So the issue is nobody agrees for sure that that's when that film was made. Some people say it was actually made in 1903, 1896. It seems like more are saying it's 1896. So she may have actually been the first person to practice narrative storytelling in film. And this film that we're going to watch from her is actually the same story as Méliès, the House of the Devil. It's Faust and Mephistopheles. I think I said that right.
Sounded right.
You know, those old. I was hearing. I'm like, that's Greek. It's German. Apparently, Mephistopheles is German. But yeah, so she did this same story, and she later married one of the cameramen. I cannot remember his first name now, but Blanchet, obviously.
On-set romance.
Right.
A little juicy gossip.
Yeah. And they moved to the U.S., where she made something like, let's just look. I'm just not even going to guess.
Yeah.
Like I said,
totally.
all these numbers, I'm getting them all confused. Let's just not even guess.
I'm impressed. I didn't even know what day it was in my life today.
So they made a company called the Solax Company, where she directed 40 to 50 films and supervised over 300 in the U.S.
That's serious.
Yeah, and especially for a woman at that time. There were no other women directors or producers at that time. So to be able to travel to a new country and do that is just incredible.
Yeah.
Whether or not she was the first to do a narrative film, whether or not it's been claimed that she just copied some of George Méliès stuff, whether or not she did that, she is extremely accomplished and has done some amazing things.
Yeah, totally.
Unfortunately, after her marriage ended, she moved back to France, where by that time she was forgotten. Nobody knew who she was, knew what she did. A lot of her work, and especially the pioneering parts of it, have been attributed to guys like George Méliès or other men. So it's almost impossible to know what she actually did or not. Yeah. But I think it's a fun take on the same story. So if we're ready, let's go ahead and do Faust and Mephistopheles.
Yeah, let's jump into it.
Looks like the same cauldron to me.
It does. Same call.
The same little door and everything.
Yeah. She was like Roger Corman. She would steal Ed Wood, and she would steal props from other filmmakers.
Yep. She pioneered that way of doing it.
Right. The first to steal something from another
First to
set.
just take that prop and walk off with it.
Ooh, okay, yeah, we got some techniques.
It's true. She made a 5-minute short film called Esmeralda. One of the first adaptations there.
Nice. Yeah, even that is forward thinking of I'm gonna take this book and turn it into a 5-minute kind of capture of that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And she actually had a set change here, which George Méliès did not do in his.
Right.
It was all on that one camera angle in that one spot, and here we are now in a new location.
Right. Impressive.
Same techniques, a lot of jump cuts, a lot of those strike cuts, but taking it to the next level with the different sets and locations.
Yeah. People don't use cauldrons enough anymore. My personal take. I know it's a hot take, but
not what I expected to come next, but yeah, and no title cards too. We were talking about that earlier, telling that story with no title cards.
Right. Yeah, straight through.
Yeah, and I think that's just some good work. Just say well done.
Well done. Yeah.
And again, we can watch this now and say this isn't scary, but these are the precursors of the horror genre.
Right.
When you're messing with these types of things. At this point, they were more wow, what is this? This is cool, and the illusion and being taken by the illusion. But these grow into the things that become, our current mystery and horror genres,
Right.
the thriller genre, especially out of Caligari, I think.
Yeah, playing with the supernatural
Exactly.
and like everyone kind of already having an understanding of like, oh, devil, vampire, all these things.
Right. Well, and for me, it's interesting because you sit here and think like, oh, people are always changing, and they were so conservative back then, and they wouldn't, everyone was so good, and little angels, and then you're like literally every film that they made was about the devil.
Right, yeah.
Like, wait a second. Like, I
Well,
don't.
there's also a lot of mythology.
Yeah.
A lot of Dracula kind of stuff in the mountains in middle of Europe.
Yeah, and so they did like. It's just not what you expect. When you think about, 100, 200 years ago, what did people read? What did they talk about? What were they doing? Mm-hmm. Well, this is a big part of it.
Yeah.
You get the Faust, you get Dracula, you get Frankenstein. And you brought up Dracula. The horror genre really was never, there was never anything called horror. The name horror was not given until the 1930s after Dracula and Frankenstein and Universal's classic monster movies. And that's really when the term came into use. So there was, all these films that we're watching tonight would not have been called a horror film when they came out.
Yeah. Interesting.
But I still think they walk that path directly into Dracula. I mean, you look at Caligari and Nosferatu as being two of the more influential silent films, and Nosferatu was really just again, they had copyright issues back then too, a rip-off of Dracula.
Right.
So that's really what it was.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's interesting too, just the relationship of like mythology and story. And there's something about our humanity of that's how we understand things.
Yeah.
That's how we understand our own challenges, our own growth, our own fights between right and wrong, good and bad, is through stories. And for everyone to be gravitating to this at the turn of the century, like the end of 1800s, it's just cool. It kind of connects us to the past too, that we still love these stories today.
It's also connecting this to what was going on in the world, because it was a pretty dark time, especially between World War I and World War II, when Caligari and the Surrealists came out, because people were in bad shape. They had seen the horror in the battleground, and it was still with it.
Yeah, and you really see that in Caligari for sure, and we'll get into that more, some of the details that are really directly tied into that later. And it is just such a reflection. Like I used to, I don't know, I may have even talked about this on other episodes of the Public Domain Movie Club. I used to talk with my film history professor about like, can you learn more from a documentary telling me all these facts about a place and a time, or can you learn more from a movie made in that place during that time? Mm-hmm. And we would go back and forth, and which one? And I think I agree with him that you can learn a lot from the movie that was made in that place in that time. And I think that's what's so cool about it.
Don't forget that the Spanish flu was, I think, 1918, and millions of people died. I mean, it was a very dark time.
Yeah, which is that very strong tie into where you see Nosferatu and the vampire movies really taking off. I don't think George Méliès really intended to make a vampire movie with the House of the Devil and the bat turning in, but that's kind of where it went.
Right.
But yeah, so from here we're gonna jump across, try to find from a few different countries. Across, we're gonna mind the gap and go over to England, where George Albert Smith was making films, doing a lot of the same things as Méliès, pioneering a lot of things. He's credited with having the first narrative edit, the first parallel edit, cutting two stories together, running kind of alongside each other and cutting between them. He also pioneered a technique called kinemacolor. Somebody had brought him some research, and he helped finish it off. And they were able to tint the film to get natural colors back in, when was this? Like let's just look again. Let me not make stuff up.
Yeah. We have a higher standard here at DCM.
Right? In the processing of the films, they use certain chemicals to bring those colors out.
Yes, so they did a lot of tinting. And this was the first time they could do natural color. And he successfully made the first film to be filmed and projected in that natural color.
Wow.
Which is crazy to me when you think that color really wasn't adopted in the mainstream film until maybe the 1950s, 1950s, 1960s, really. And we've had this technology for a long time. There were some of these filmmakers were doing sound recordings. at the time, and so it's interesting. It just takes time to catch on sometimes, but yeah. So they did all the tinting, different gels, primarily working with greens to pull that out. And so this guy was a real pioneer. He had done a lot of different things. George Albert Smith, and in this film, I love the name of it. It's kind of like an early PSA. It's called Mary Jane's Mishap, or Why You Don't Fool with Paraffin.
Whoa.
I'm just
catchy.
like, all right, I want to know more.
Yeah.
Like, how can you not want to watch Mary Jane's Mishap?
Right.
And
So-
I think there were paraffin stoves back then. That they
Yeah.
used and to cook with.
Yeah, and I guess this was the one. I guess you cook with it, but don't mess with it. Be careful. She didn't follow the rules. So let's jump in. Go ahead and jump into Mary Jane's Mishap.
Hit it.
And this is one of those things where for me, I'm like, you don't picture people acting the same way we do today. Back then, they're like, oh, they yawned and did the same stretch
Right.
your arms
Really
like we do.
broad.
Yeah.
This is an actual set.
Oh, yeah.
The cauldron budgets back then.
Everyone had to have some sort of cauldron or stove in their film back then. It was
It's
a
in the
requirement.
writer. It's a requirement.
If you're gonna make a film, have a cooking cooking tool in there.
Ooh, little mustache humor.
And something to note in here, he was using an early adopter of the wipe transition. You see here, we just went from a wide shot, that wide establishing, to a medium close-up. That was not
Right.
done very commonly at this time. So he was definitely pushing a lot of things that we now take for granted and trying out these new things.
Nice.
Oh, Mary Jane. And I honestly don't know where this film falls in the line of marijuana becoming Mary Jane or anything.
Right.
I'm not fully sure on that. She's so chipper about this, though. The wink. See, this is where it feels like a PSA. Like
Right.
that breaking the fourth wall early on.
Right. It's like way before The Office did it.
Yeah.
She was looking straight at the camera.
Straight in. Oh, it's another set of
That's the
winks.
first intertitle has paraffin on it.
Maybe.
That's the first one I've seen. But yeah, I don't know when they really came into common use. I think once they started to get into those longer 5-10 minute films. Oh,
Whoa.
and she's gone.
Early effects. Yeah.
Just sucked up the flu.
Ooh, and then a set change. We're outside.
Outside. There she goes. Launched into the sky. Oh, disintegration.
Oh, and pieces of her fall down. Ooh.
Falling down in little pieces. Here lies Mary, who lighted the fire with paraffin.
That's kind of dope. I want that on a shirt.
First,
Ooh, crossfade. Now we're playing with perspective again. Drawing,
Yeah.
going way back. Painting.
Just telling this lady, you see, that's how she died. Don't do it. Oh, I won't.
Ooh.
Oh, there is
and
a
then
cat.
superimpose.
That is a great find.
and she's kind of transparent, like a ghost.
Yep, so this was one of the early uses of superimposition to do that. And for those of you who aren't here with us, we just have an audience member just found the cat in the frame for us.
Oh, cool.
And sometimes they did double exposures to get something like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I'd be curious what exactly was their technique for this, but it
Oh,
works.
black cat.
Oh, there it is.
Wow.
Man,
One of the first cat celebrities, too.
I need a cat
Yeah.
for my horror films. It seems like a prerequisite now,
Yeah.
knowing that it was back in 1903. No, wait. Yeah, it's 1903.
Nice. You hit it.
So yes,
Paraffin sales went down after that.
they had to have, right? Like that
Yeah.
just seems like the anti-paraffin group paid for that or something. Like we got a new, better kerosene. I don't know.
Right, right.
Use this instead. But yeah, so you could see obviously the progress through the years. Like now we're multiple sets. We started one locked off camera, basically a stage play. But we're
Going
messing
wide
with
to
time.
a medium.
Yep. And now we're going to multiple sets. We're getting different camera angles.
Right. People are dying, coming back
People
to
are
life.
dying. There's ghosts everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they're having fun with it too.
Right.
Like,
right. Yeah. The imagination is starting to grow,
Mm-hmm.
and with that, it's like, okay, where can we take this next?
yeah. Well, and I do think there's got to be something that was pushing to say we need a paraffin safety message here.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you're starting to see if that's true, you're starting to see the first uses of like, how can this get a message across, not just be
Right.
entertainment?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think home safety was a big deal back then.
Yeah.
There were a lot of threats to the safety in the home.
Mm-hmm. A lot of other things to worry
A
about.
lot of other things,
So-
yeah.
But yeah, it just seems like they had fun with it. I'm not going to mess with paraffin now.
No,
I'm
me
definitely not
neither.
going to fool around with paraffin.
I'm leaving that in the garage.
Yeah.
Change of plans tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Shoot,
Austin.
that ruined my plans. Sorry, Matt. But yeah, and so again, just the progression that we get, and you're starting to see all of a sudden, like we had real people. This was the most like ghost-like looking thing before they had people in sheets on Georges Méliès and Alice Guy Blaché, and now we're starting to see the superimposition to create that semi-transparent ghost.
Right.
So we're just continually pushing. What can we do? What can we do?
Yeah.
And obviously that's continued to this day. But I like this better than the modern CGI. It looks
Ooh.
more real.
Yeah. Feels
I
more
think.
authentic.
Yeah.
You know?
There's more behind it.
Yeah. Just a little bit more underground.
Yeah.
I have obscure
it.
tastes.
Yep. They just I like those little under the radar pieces. So
Yeah, I just only watch stuff from 1903 to 1908.
1908, and then
That's
you lost
how I
me. Well,
roll.
we're gonna open up your world tonight. Go a little past them, but not too far. So
It's also a flashback to how women had to cook back then. It was big old iron stoves.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
It wasn't easy.
It is, and that's what I love about these old films is you see this world that you never had before. There's like, I can imagine what life was like in 1903.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, I just got an actual glimpse of that.
Right.
And you never think like, oh yeah, I've seen like movies from the 60s. I saw Jaws. Like that's what it was like. You're like, no wait, this is old.
And can you imagine that this person, do you think they had any idea that all the way into 2023, their likeness is going to be played and shared and analyzed? You know, that's
I know, right?
that's kind of wild to think too.
Yeah.
you know?
Oh yeah. Just like they had no
Also
clue.
kind of fun to see some of the filmmakers have projection into the future, like the trip to the moon and what they thought 20 years or 100 years in the future would be. It didn't happen. It's not what we have today.
Right.
It is,
Well,
yeah.
and some of it, it's like, it's the creative mind that comes up with these tech pieces first. It's not engineers, it's not scientists, it's writers and filmmakers of like, what if we had a little box that we could talk to each other?
Yeah,
Which is kind of
right.
like FaceTime.
Get that Star
right?
Trek pulling that stuff together.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Dick Tracy had that back in the 50s.
Yeah. Yeah, even before Star Trek. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, you see so much like how did he envision, and we're getting back to Georges Méliès now, and you bring a trip to the moon. How did he envision a rocket ship back in, what I forget the year of that one now, early 1900s.
Right.
How did he envision that?
Right.
Didn't even have, I guess they just started, like airplanes, but that's a model we still depict rocket ships in that fashion.
Right.
Like, you're just like, who was this guy?
Yeah. That's why artists and creatives
Some of it came
lead the
from
way.
war, looking at bullets
Yeah.
and projectiles.
Oh, missiles.
Things
That's-
like
that's-
that.
yeah.
There was a slight crossover.
That makes sense. Yeah,
that makes sense.
I've always wondered that, and you just answered the question I've been asking since I saw that film for the first time 10 years ago.
Yeah, thanks for
Yes,
answering
that's
the
amazing.
question. Austin's been wondering this whole time.
Every time I watch it, I'm like, how did he get this idea so well? So that's great. And And yeah, and there is too this longevity. Like, did they ever think we would be watching this?
Right.
And you look back at George Méliès, he, at the end of his life, thought he was a failure. During World War I, his studio was confiscated by the French army. They burned, I think he had made like 500 films, and 300 or 400 of them had been burnt.
Wow.
Some of them by him, because he just thought, I'm such a failure, I'm going to get rid of all this. So a lot of these films have actually, we thought they were lost and have come back. And so, like, taking that into account too, like, he thought, oh, nobody would want to see this. We're sitting here talking about him now.
Right.
Even though he did that. And that's why, I don't know if you've seen the movie Hugo. I really enjoy it. It's one of those animated, very lifelike ones. And Hugo is the little boy who is trying to rebuild the animatron that his dad had built. All this fun stuff from this era. And he finally finds the guy who can, or his dad was trying to help him repair the animatron that somebody else had built, and he finally ends up finding the guy who had built it initially. And he's this grumpy old man. And it ends up being George Méliès.
Oh, wow.
George Méliès.
Yep. And so that's this whole tie-in. I mean, there's this whole movie about this guy. And they do a great job of tapping into that. He thought he was a failure. He thought nobody cared about his work, and he wanted to cover it up. And, in that movie, people bring out his films and start watching him. And it's a really cool moment.
Yeah, it's funny. It reminds me of just the nature of media, the nature of recording, right?
Yeah.
So I've been hired by friends to, like, go record their show, right? And then they get off the stage and they're like, oh, that wasn't great. That wasn't my best performance. But it's like, well, let me edit it, clean it up, and maybe it will be shared a million times. So where is the failure? Where is it exactly?
Yeah.
Because this moment has now been captured and can be duplicated. So it's almost like there is no there.
Yeah. Exactly.
So if anyone is ever feeling insecure, like they're a failure, just know that in 150 years,
someone's going to love
someone's going to be like, wow, that was good.
This was amazing. This was brilliant. Yeah, and we are in that era where innovation is really what you're looking at. It's this great innovate. Like, is Mary Jane's Mishap a great story?
Right.
Sorta. It's fun.
Right.
But what it is the innovation and just to come up with this stuff that nobody, like back then you were truly doing stuff that no one else had ever done.
Right. And I mean, for me, I think of it in the sense of just contributing, that we are all a part of this, even us as filmmakers. Because there is, like, innovation and first to do it, right?
Yeah.
But without the invention of the, like, emulsion to create it, it's like we're all playing a part in this.
Yep, it's a huge collaboration.
It's like more of a human, like, kind of accomplishment at the end of the day than, like, per person. Because, what is the saying? Like, we stand on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah.
It's like each generation helps each other.
Yeah, it really is. And
media is always chasing the future. And the trick is that in the future, there will be a playback, something. I mean, any Betamax movies have you watched lately, So hopefully there'll be something in the future that will play back whatever we create today.
Yeah, and that is weird to think about now when there are literally billions of videos out there.
Oh my gosh. And I don't know when it's going to happen or if it already happened, but the idea of someone's entire life being captured from, like, birth to death, not in its entirety, obviously,
but
every just
stage.
Moments, that's like a first time
that constant recording
that has been able to happen,
Yeah. It is. It's
I guess
really
it probably
crazy.
has happened if you think.
It's gotta have, right?
Yeah.
Recently. Well, and you get Mary Jane's Mishap may be the first, and they may have actually said the only film. I've never seen another film where someone was actually sucked into and launched out of the chimney. That was actually a first for me.
Yeah.
So, there you go, George Albert Smith. Good work.
Congrats.
Yeah.
Accomplished.
Good work. Good work.
Like the Truman Show.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. So the next film we have, we're going to jump over to Spain. And this guy actually was just an amazing rap sheet, really. He's Segundo de Chamon. I don't know if I'm saying that right either. Not great at Spanish. It's been a little while since Spanish class.
It's all right. In America, we all pronounce things all weird.
It's all wrong.
It's the American
Yeah.
way, to not know about other cultures.
To not know how to do it. I believe it's de Chamon. But he actually got into film in Paris. His wife was a film painter for Méliès, and he learned a lot through that and started helping her find these ways to paint, and ended up coming with this new innovative way to hand paint film quicker and use different systems to speed that up. And then he started getting into a lot of the tricks that Méliès was doing, and he ended up working for Pathé, which was just the biggest film company in the world, one of the biggest at that time, doing stuff all over. They just had the conglomeration down solid. Eventually he got enticed to move back to Spain, and he was doing a lot of the same stuff and a lot of the same tricks, and he basically laid a lot of the foundations for the Spanish film industry. A lot of their genres that they have that are unique there, he started building all these things, and he's one of the, if not the only person I've ever heard that they said could hold a candle to Méliès with his stuff. And I did watch some of his other, I guess it could be, all this stuff is, is this horror or not? So, but some of his other stuff that was maybe out onto the side, and the color in it was like better than some of the color today. Was it realistic? No. Was it just like you wanted to keep looking at it? Yeah, it was great. And he just had this skill, these great effects. And when you look at where he went, he ended up going down to Italy for a while and working on Cabiria, which was one of the first big epic feature films. Huge piece. He was a cameraman and effects on that, and then he came back and ended up working on Abel Gance's Napoleon in France, which was thought lost until that was probably 20, 30 years ago now. But yeah, just one of those, huge films on Napoleon that was cut and recut and burned and trashed so many times that it took forever to find a version of it. Just like where he went, he played this, he worked in Paris, advanced the film industry there, went to Spain, built the film industry there, laid the foundations, went to Italy, helped build up the film industry there. Just like remarkable what he was able to do. And so he made a film called The House of Ghosts in 1907, so a few years after the ones we just saw. So again, we're moving forward. He's getting, some of the shots look like they are fully just outside in the woods. I don't actually know if that's how he shot it. Some of his work was lost, and there's not actually the main Wikipedia page I found out. This is the first time I had ever found where it was just in Spanish. I was like, all right, time to practice.
That's a deep cut.
Yeah,
when the article's just
in Spanish, and I found an English version, and it had way less details.
Wow.
I've never seen like a primarily that's actually a different version of a Wikipedia page.
Wow.
But that's how much he is ingrained in that Spanish film industry. So I had to kind of do a little Google Translate, try and remember some high school Spanish, and get through reading that article to figure this stuff out about him. But it's just amazing and he died really young at 57. So what he did in such a short time, and the countries he helped build the film industry, and it's just amazing. So I think we should go ahead and jump into
it. Seed of cinema.
Yeah, it really is, and I think we should just jump right into
I'm
the
excited.
House of
Let's
Ghosts.
see it.
This has got to be outside, right? They didn't build a set like this.
Yeah.
How they got the rain effect.
I know. I was wondering that too. Because the water is not getting dropped, so it's clearly an effect.
Yeah.
I just don't. I would love to know how they did that. And those cherubs, I guess. I don't know, something flying.
Ooh, lightning. Yeah,
It's a cute little house.
It is cute. That would be $1 million in Denver right now.
Especially when you put that face on the front
Yeah.
of it. Wow. Look, I got some sort of mask on. Look at that.
Now things are starting to move by themselves.
Yep. Doing that. Oh my gosh. See now? Look at that. That's impressive for the time. Kind of creepy. I don't know what that thing is.
And it's obviously shot separately and superimposed.
It's got almost a 3D feel to it.
So it's okay, we're in a haunted house.
That's a really small door.
That is, isn't it? All these guys got funny masks on. I like to sweeping himself off. That's nice. Swept off his friend. The choreography. I hate it when that happens. Ooh, I like. See, look at this.
Yeah. See, now they kept the sheet, but now it's also like
Superimposed. They took it up and
Yeah.
combined the techniques.
Has the sheet industry ever been upset that it's been associated with ghosts for so long?
We just get a bad rap with those ghost things.
Ooh, stop motion.
Stop motion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure when that came out, they were like amazed.
Yeah.
'Cause I have distinct memories in college helping with stop motion and being like, whoa, cool. But
Yeah.
back then, I mean, it must have melted brains.
Yeah.
I've never tried stop motion. It's hard.
I don't have the patience.
So time consuming.
Wow. I like the ghosts that clean the knife when they're done.
Yeah. You know, it's funny, after all those paranormal movies came out, I always thought about, it's like, okay, you're a spirit that can go anywhere. So you just stay in someone's house and mess with the dishes?
Stay there and throw dishes around like, what?
But this is the earliest representation of a ghost doing like daily chores.
Well, it must be stop motion because I don't see any wires.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I like those masks too.
Yeah,
That might be a wire.
that's gotta be, right?
I think so, because it's a lot smoother than the other stuff. But
Oh,
still.
they spilled. That's still pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't see the wire. I wonder how many takes that took.
Now we're back to stop motion. It just has a different quality to it.
Yeah. Wow. Look at all those spoons going at once. It is. I was just thinking that.
They look like clowns.
Yeah.
Like they are.
I guess that's where you kind of get the theater background for all of this. The accentuated makeup for that.
Right.
We're not even messing with the chairs anymore. I don't really know what's happening now, though. I
I
have
think
no
the idea
idea.
is that she wants to go to sleep.
Like tucking her in, I guess, and now they're gonna. That's nice. Oh, they're done.
Oh, nice.
So did they tilt the set?
That's why I was wondering if they tilted the set or if they tilted the camera and then had like rope on the bed.
But
Yeah.
then it's wheels.
Oh yeah. Maybe they did tilt the whole set.
Because it looks like he like kind of was pushing it. So yeah, I think they're tilting the camera.
I mean, Christopher Nolan had to have seen this before that scene in Inception, right? Tilt the whole room.
Oh, I don't know. Now I'm back on like they're tilting the room.
Yeah.
You know what? Maybe they are, because the frame is like fixed pretty well.
Yeah.
It's like a simple set.
Or the
Oh
picture
wow!
before.
And then they built a small
Little
bed replica.
miniatures.
That's smart. Early use of replicas and miniatures.
Wow.
Classic.
I like it. So yeah, so that's Segundo de Chamon. Another, just great innovator. Again, like we went through a sheet, just like all these things he worked on,
Yeah.
just everywhere, and I just someday maybe I'll be there. Be like, I worked on this movie, this movie, and this movie, and built up this. Like, oh wow, this guy's impressive. Like,
I mean, I can't imagine like building a career with no like infrastructure and industry behind it. Like that is some drive. That is impressive.
and in multiple different countries, just all over the place. I mean, like, I'm like, does he speak French, Spanish, and Italian?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
but it's impressive. It's some good work.
Yeah. Well, with all these filmmakers, I think it reminds me of kind of that phrase or that saying, which I think I've said on this program before, which is like talent is hitting a target no one else can hit, but genius is hitting a target no one else can see, right?
Yeah.
Because all these tricks now are so obvious to us, but back then it's like, oh, you know what we should do? We could stop recording, move it, start recording, move it, and create this whole like movement, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, super inspirational.
It is. It's so much that we could do.
We only saw the successes. How many failures did they have before they got it right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Proof
sure.
to never give up.
Tons of work and tries.
Even when no one's in the audience except for 2 people that are joining us now, never give up.
Welcome to Public Domain Movie Club.
Right.
So our next film is from the U.S. It's going to be our only one from the U.S. tonight.
USA.
That is the first adaptation of Frankenstein,
Ooh.
made by Edison Studios in 1910, and it's kind of creepy.
Okay.
They actually, Edison's Kinetograph, his own newspaper, would put out a bunch of articles saying like, we are taking away, de-emphasizing the horror of the story and pushing in the mysticism and psychology because they thought moviegoers would be too scared to come see Frankenstein.
Oh, wow.
So they really pushed. We're not making it hoary. Hoary. Not making it hoary either. It's not horror or hoary.
Good descriptor.
Yeah, good descriptor. As far as I can tell, it is not
Non-horror.
hoary or horror. Yeah. So they try to pull that down. I think this is one of the creepier depictions of Frankenstein's monster that I have seen.
Yeah.
The movie overall isn't necessarily scary, but the depiction is it's kind of Grinch-like, and you'll see it. You'll be like, what? It is creepy.
Okay.
I don't want to look out the
He's
window.
also dressed in the period back then.
Yeah.
Not the monster with the coat and the
Yeah.
head.
Kind of a more traditional, older clothing. And this gentleman, I just want to look up this guy, Chris Ogle. Is that his right? Did I say that right? Charles Ogle, sorry. Played Frankenstein's monster. He was the first person to play Frankenstein's monster. He was also one of the first people to play Long John Silver in Treasure Island and Bob Cratchit in A Christmas Carol.
Wow, those are some iconic characters.
Like some just huge roles that have been remade so many times. I don't even know. I don't know how many Christmas carols there are. So he did that in addition to like 130 other films.
Wow.
So a lot of these early actors are in so many films.
Right. Because again, there's just not that industry to choose from. So I bet it's just like the same kind of massive collection of people that are doing similar
there's
things.
all cycling through who's willing to be a part of this.
Right.
And so it's they shot this I think in 3 days in the Bronx, in Edison Studios in the Bronx. And they say they tried to play down the horror. It's still kind of creepy.
Well, and I don't know if this is part of it, but there's that just like a little film history of why they're called B movies is they used to make A movies and B movies. A movies had bigger names and bigger budgets, and B movies were shot a lot cheaper, but then they would sell them as packages to the movie theaters. So a movie theater had to buy the A movie and the B movie, and they were bundled. So just a little side note on where that term comes from.
So so they could sell the cheaper B movie and still get a good
So
deal
you're
for
making
it.
more, but one of them isn't that great.
Okay, yeah, that makes
And
sense.
in the 1950s, they sold them to the drive-in theaters.
Really? Okay. Nice. Little film cinema history for everyone.
Cinema history. And so another fun thing, this is kind of public domain oriented. Tracking down these films can be easy, can be hard. A lot of them are on YouTube. I tried to get a lot of variety. I wanted to find Japanese had some early horror type films. Japan had some early horror type films. And I could not find them. And as far as I can tell, they have been lost. They do have some longer form ones, but the shorter ones I was looking for, I could not find them. Everything I saw said that there's no copies of them. There's a lot also coming out of Germany, which we'll get to later, but you have Der Golem, Nosferatu, all kinds of things. With Frankenstein, they actually did 2 other short, like 10-minute films. Those are both lost. So there's a lot of stuff that we know was out there that we can't find anymore. But this one, Frankenstein, this one's actually lost until the 70s. I believe a man found it in his mother's film collection, and nobody knew what it was. All of a sudden he's like, wait a second, everyone thought this was gone.
Wow.
So eventually it ended up in the Library of Congress. And so they have actually preserved it. You're going to see their title at the front of this film. Great resource for finding things in public domain, things that are free to use. It's the Library of Congress. And so this is one of those films. And they do have other silent films that they have preserved and kept and made available. So just a really cool thing that, like, until I was looking into some of these, I had forgotten about that. I've used it on projects in the past, and before those I never knew about it. But the fact that you can find things like that, Library of Congress, I think we talked in the Plan 9 episode about Department of Defense videos being public domain because they're tax dollars. I don't know if that's the official legal reason, but you can generally grab a lot of that old footage that the government shot. And this is one that they didn't shoot, but they ended up purchasing, and it's in the public domain now, but they've also preserved it on top of that.
Wow.
So yeah,
And in January of this year, Metropolis fell into public domain also.
Yeah. So put us at is that 1928? I'm trying to remember. 27.
Boy, I'm
remember
sorry,
now.
I've drawn a blank.
No, that's fine. I obviously can't remember. I can't think of it either. But yeah, so we're I think it's in general it's 96 years.
Right. Yeah, it's starting to open up.
But depending on when things came out, some of the laws are different, and it's a little all over the place.
For my show, Really Late Night, we're playing with this idea of a Wizard of Oz parody, and we were trying to figure out when Wizard of Oz enters public domain.
10 or 12 more years.
But there's so many different iterations of Wizard of Oz. When we were looking into it, it was like, well, which one are you talking about?
Yeah. So if you took the book,
Frank books are public domain.
yeah. So you could do the book. You just couldn't do your Dorothy. Could not look like the other Dorothys. I mean, obviously, there's a point where it's like this is just the way it would have been.
Right.
But if you're not taking things that are uniquely added by that later film that weren't
Like
in the
purple
book.
shoes instead of red shoes.
Yeah. But if red shoes were in the book, which is public domain, you can do that. But if that was added by the filmmakers in whichever version, then it would be taking it from them.
Okay, that makes
Theory.
sense.
Yeah,
And
so
I don't
it's
know
a
if
tricky
the
line.
illustrations in Frank Baum's books are also public domain, but they might be because they're part of the book.
Yeah, that would
Oh,
make
okay.
sense.
Cool. Wow, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks
So-
for the free
I know,
consultation.
you're just got so much.
If you both need to invoice me for your services, please give me net 30.
Well, you better just
His stories are really,
you better just show us that Wizard of Oz when you make it. I'm expecting to see that parody. So
It'll be ready in 6 to 8 business months.
perfect. I'll look for it.
Thanks.
Great. So I think we should go ahead and watch Frankenstein.
From the Library of Congress.
From the
in
Library of
Washington,
Congress.
D.C.
I could
That
have done
library
that.
must be huge. At least 4 stories, right?
Gotta be.
At
Maybe even
least.
a fifth.
All right.
Liberal adaptation. Yeah, I like that.
Way better than a conservative adaptation.
I hate
Too
those.
many rules.
Like we didn't really want to try too hard. We didn't want to mess with it, so we did the bare minimum.
Right.
I think that's your conservative
So yeah,
adaptation.
I was commenting earlier, but already there's so much more detail. Like they're getting like a finer capture of the sets and
yeah, it's like the
even just like
midtones are
people's
missing,
faces,
and
you
it's the
can just
high
see
and
more
low
details.
tones.
So that's Dr. Frankenstein. He's figuring it out. The
Victor Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Frankenstein.
Frankenstein.
Victor Frankenstein. That's my favorite.
Oh, that one's a hit.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember seeing Young Frankenstein when I was like 12, and I was like, "What is this?"
Yep.
I'm just blown away at the humor.
Like, wow.
I like the arm hanging down the wall.
That
Yeah, an interesting perspective too. The background where it's like a cityscape, but
that is interesting.
it's very
yeah.
like artistic. It's not realistic, you know.
I don't buy for 1 second that it's German.
Right. Just before the experiment. Uh-oh. We've all had those days at work. That was me earlier, actually.
It's like, I can't do
I
this.
was like, I'm done.
Are
Man.
those his crib notes?
I think so.
You telling me he didn't memorize his lines?
Oh.
He
Yeah,
wrote
he
the
has
script.
nice handwriting.
Ooh, yeah.
better than mine.
Isn't that one of the most interesting things of, at least in American culture, that we typically refer to the monster as Frankenstein?
Right, right.
We've just kind of smushed those together.
It's all about branding, you know?
I'm not
Wow, shot in 3 days.
Part of his mind
in the
made
studios.
a monster.
I was trying to walk past it. What was that? What was the last part you said?
Well, it says that the evil in Frankenstein's mind made a monster. So he's sort of like Jekyll and Hyde, I guess.
Hey, is one of Deadly's relatives, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait. Is that Deadly?
Well, he looks like a cardboard cutout of Deadly.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Is that one of your relatives?
They couldn't afford the real Deadly.
A
No,
long
that's
line
his,
of
he
Deadlies.
said it's his Uncle Sid.
Oh, yeah.
Uncle Sid. They got that same cauldron from the first one.
They're like, listen.
For the prop company, only one prop company in town.
Yeah. It's not a horror film if there's not a smoking cauldron.
Right, right. Just one eccentric CEO that's like, I
Yeah.
want more cauldrons.
More cauldrons.
Ooh, okay, now we're working some magic.
That little peephole in there. I feel like he's.
So is that supposed to be a furnace with a peephole? It's alive!
Oh yeah, it's an
So
early It's
he
Alive.
didn't use lightning. He actually is like a grow your own monster.
Right, right, like a chia pet.
When you really need them.
Yeah, this is like a little creepier than all the other ones we've seen so far. This is
Very
going more realistic, a little more dark too. Like, and then
Wow.
this red tint.
Kind of like the cocoon or something going on here.
Yeah.
Oh,
It
there's a
looks
hand.
like they crumpled up paper, set it on fire, and watched
I,
it burn.
I think you're
And
right. I think that's
lighted
what they did.
reverbers.
It kind of looks like a gremlin.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, the bench next to him kind of just looks like when I'm baking something.
Like the armor.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, a little movement.
Little puppetry there.
Whoa.
But
Look
the
at those
red
vents.
tint makes it even creepier.
Yeah, it really does.
So they were like, we need to put out a press release and say that this isn't scary, that we're
Yeah.
just putting into the spirit of the
Yeah.
novel.
We're really focusing on the I was like, I don't know, the psychology of it's kind of scary too.
Yeah.
The thing I don't see is Frankenstein's evil side coming out. He just
Yeah.
seems real normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I will
like-
say that he said, like, I figured it out in a couple of hours. And I'm like, I doubt it took a couple of hours. So
Nobody
maybe it's not evil, but it is misleading.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Is that not
is
creepier
creepy.
than the other
mm.
ones? That is the creepiest Frankenstein's monster I have ever seen.
Yeah.
It's the tiny face for me. Is he making his own kombucha too? You gotta get the mother and you gotta grow it. That's the amount I know about kombucha. Okay, here we go. Reveal.
Kind of grinchy, if you ask me, with the long,
Yeah.
furry fingers. He's horrified by his own creation.
That's how I feel about some of my films.
Yeah,
What have I
I
done?
get that feeling. What did I just make?
You know, if you fall by his creation, you definitely didn't have a blueprint to work from.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
He was not ready.
yeah. Yeah, and this is just more complex. This is several scenes.
Yeah.
And just dramatic lighting and set design. Yeah, could you imagine getting home and being like, how was your day at work? Oh, it was a doozy.
Made this thing.
Just remember, you can see in Nosferatu where Nosferatu breaks into his bedroom and he hides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, Butler.
Like, oh, he's passed out drunk again. Do this every night.
Yeah. He just-
Darn college student.
Yep.
Yeah. I wonder if this was fun. You know, like, was making movies fun back then, or do you think
wondered
it
that
was
too.
like confusing and stressful?
What are we doing?
Yeah, like, because there almost has to be a level of familiarity to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa, I like that pipe style there.
That is nice.
Mm.
He is tall. So Lena comes up to me. I'm screening this movie
Mhm.
to pick it for this, and she's like, I wish I was them. I was like, they're dead. She's like, exactly. I was like,
Nice.
should I be worried? Do I need to be concerned?
I think if it's spooky season, people are allowed to say that. But
Yeah.
And once like the holidays roll around and if she's still going, you might want
it
to
should
check.
be-
Haunting his creator and jealous of his sweetheart. Ooh, drama. For the first time, the monster sees himself.
Oh, the mirror. Now the perception of him, I'm way off with the angles here because I don't know how his foot showing up in that mirror
Right.
based off of where it appears to
It's a
be.
real mirror that they have at an angle there.
Yeah. I guess they just have a angle, probably put that angle in there specifically to catch her entering the door.
Yeah. Well, and the angle doesn't match the painting
That's what
or
was
the
throwing me
painting
off.
that she's entering. So that's another reason why it's super warped. Because, like, look at that table, too. It's, like, really strange how they have it angled.
Yeah, you're right. My first thought, I forgot what we were watching there for a second and said, that's Bigfoot.
Nice fur coat.
Stepped right in. Just like,
Dang,
Lost
don't
one.
yell when someone walks in the room.
That's
Where are your
rude.
manners?
you.
I mean, I will
big
say that, yeah, in terms of like an early Frankenstein costume, I'm into it.
They have that tall forehead
Uh-huh.
that you get later.
Yeah. Does anyone know what that story's about? Is it like we're afraid of like our own creations? Are we afraid of our creativity?
I've always seen Frankenstein as, to an extent, the message of don't try and play God.
Oh.
With life. Kind of the dangers of that. It was in a weird time when science was progressing and more people were embracing science, but there was still a fear of science. And so you have this weird back and forth.
Yeah. You ever had a grapple?
Yeah.
Proof.
Those are
Proof.
great.
We were.
One of my good friends in high school, his great-grandfather was Boris Karloff
Oh, wow.
and played Frankenstein.
Wow.
In those old movies. And his grandma still, I mean, this was it was like 10 or 15 years ago. At that time, still went to the Playboy Mansion's Halloween party dressed as Frankenstein every year.
Wow.
Just to keep her dad's memory alive.
Whoa.
So
Cool.
I mean, it is like an iconic character to play.
it is, yeah.
A great
It
story.
worked much better for him than Dracula did for Bela Lugosi, as we saw in Playing Man
Oh,
from Outer
yeah.
Space.
Fall from grace.
Yep. But see, they show Frankenstein as being very scared of the creation here. Yet in the book, he's chasing it down, trying to bring it back. So it's kind of that interesting. It frames it very differently when you have that
Yeah.
whole full story. That's
So wait,
something-
is it just Frankenstein's monster then,
Mm-hmm.
and like, because that would explain why people are like Frankenstein, because it does help to have like something to call something.
Yeah, it's either
Yeah.
call him Frankenstein than Frankenstein's monster.
Right. Right.
And so he's just kind of become, because you even see, Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein.
She never gave the science monster a name.
Right.
I don't think she did. Yeah, it was always just the monster.
It's like, what you drinking? Frankenstein's monster energy drink? And it's like, actually, the energy drink's named after
let me
the
tell you.
doctor.
It's actually Dr. Frankenstein's energy drink. Thank you very much.
Thanks for that.
And that is the big
following me
question
down
of
that
the story,
lane.
right?
That was a low
Yep.
payoff.
It was worth it though. But the real question is, who's the monster? I think it does bring into these big questions of who is the monster.
Right.
I was just trying to help her. She fell down. I don't know.
You need to know when to ask for help. Stop trying to control everything. Now he's chasing the monster. The creation of an evil mind is overcome by love and disappears. Back to daytime.
Has a Johnny Depp thing going on her.
Right.
Johnny Depp studied this film very intensively before.
For Jack Sparrow. And like I would say even this acting is less like cartoony than the earlier ones we saw. That actor is kind of embracing some more like subtle parts.
Getting further removed from stage act.
This is seeing viewpoint. He's looking in the mirror at
Yeah.
oh, there we go. It turned into him.
It
Okay.
really is
Right.
that Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, like you said.
I like that dandy outfit.
That is real nice.
I might try bringing that back. I might.
I'm not opposed to it.
Hard to breathe.
It's a little warm for this time of year. Trademark Thomas A. Edison.
Good job. Woo!
Maybe
Truly
murdered
classic
Louis
cinema.
LaPrince.
Charles O.
And so now this
the
one
monster.
actually had the original music because they actually sent this film out with a cue sheet for theaters to play. So they
Really?
could have the same music playing behind, which was not very
Wow.
common back then, yeah.
It's starting to grow. Movies as we know it are starting to emerge.
Starting to get there. And so that leaves us with one last film. We take a bit of a jump in time,
Okay.
but from there we go to 1920 in Germany, right after World War I. I was about to say II. That would not be accurate, would it?
No.
That would not make sense. World War I, and we have a thriving film industry in Germany. And it's a kind of interesting story behind Dr. Caligari because the two writers had never written a screenplay. And both had come out very, I want to say traumatized, kind of scarred by the military and authority during World War I. They didn't have good experiences. I forget one of them kept trying to get out of duty and ended up getting put in a mental asylum. He pled insanity basically and did not have a great experience. And so they were ready to make a statement. And so they wrote the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Brought it to their friend, I think it was Fritz Lang, the famous director, who later moved to the U.S. And he took it to his producer friend, who said, hey, I leave it here, I'll read it tonight and get back to you. And they said, no, we're going to read it to you. And they made him wait, and they read it to him, and he said, I love this, I'm going to buy it right now.
Wow.
$200, buys the script, works in a production. He initially tagged Fritz Lang to direct, but ended up, Fritz Lang jumped on one of their the Spider series that they made. And so there's a conflict. So they ended up going over to Robert Vine? I don't know.
Vine works.
Vine, we'll say Vine. End up jumping over to him, and in the long run, that worked out because he had some, different experiences growing up that really helped him understand kind of some of the psychological, in a sense, craziness of the characters. At least that's what the writer said. This movie gets really tricky to determine who did what. It's everyone. I think once it got big, everyone said, "I did this and I did this," and you get one of the designers, Reimar, who claims he came up with the idea to do this has become the quintessential German expressionist film, and he claims it was his idea to do an expressionist style. Then you get over to the director and he says, no, it was my idea. And then you go over to the writer and he says, no, I commissioned somebody else to do this beforehand. And everyone wants to take credit for something that's good at that point.
Right.
And their own stories change. But it really is. It's a creepy film. I think it's a beautiful film. They tinted it to have different colors for different times again, different shading. And they built everything out of these paper sets. And nothing is straight. They have no horizontal or vertical lines. Everything's angled. It's pointed.
Right.
They painted shadows directly on the set just to get that stark look. So they really went full into the German Expressionist movement.
Right.
Which
was like also the early inspiration for like film noir too.
It was, yeah. So and Fritz Lang played a big role in that, and he ended up
It was
doing
an influence on film noir.
It really was. It really kind of turned into film noir, I've always thought, because you take the German Expressionist track all the way up through Fritz Lang to M, which, if you haven't seen it, is a great, creepy. It's like one of those debatable, is it in the public domain? I don't think it is. It's a 1930 and early serial killer flick, and it is pretty creepy, and you can see the jump from M straight into film noir right after World War II. There's just a direct line from this film, Caligari, up until M and then up until film noir. So it really did influence a lot of film around it. And it is very much a reaction to World War I that mistrust of authority, the mistrust of the military. And that's where you get into other controversies where the writers had written kind of an intro story to kind of bring you into it, and that got changed. They said they never wrote this. But so what this film does is it uses a frame story structure, which means that they start with somebody in like a place. So in this film, they're telling a story outside of I think a mental hospital, and they say, so this is what happened, and they take you back to the other place. So it's a story within a story, but what makes it a frame story is that the outer piece that you go to at the beginning and the end is meant to affect the way in which you interpret and see the inner story, the main story, really. And the writers always complained that they weren't on board with the frame story they used. They said they didn't like frame stories at all. And that's a whole other controversy where one of the actors finally came out in like the 70s, I think, or the 50s and said, I have a script still. You guys can see what was in it. But then wouldn't show it to anybody, and then he died, and then it sat around for a while, and then finally a museum got it, and they said, yeah, there was a frame story. So then they find out again, the actors were lying, the writers were lying about there being a frame story or not. But what I think it really comes down to is the frame story was different. And to them, the frame story lessened their political message and took away the bite of it. And so they didn't like that. It's very much is a stand against that authority in the military, and to an extent war, I think. But those are really the themes of it, is this rebellion against authority, this mistrust of authority. But what I really love is just a lot of the backstory on it when you get into the actors and everything. So outside of Fritz Lang's involvement, who was a huge influence on the American and German, really just the world's film industry, you have Conrad Veidt playing, I don't know if that's how you say that either, Conrad Veidt, who was Jewish and ended up moving to the U.S. when the Nazis came to power and acting in films in Britain. I think he was in The Thief of Baghdad, came to the U.S. I think I'm remembering that right. And then I know he came to the U.S. and he ended up acting in a whole bunch of movies here and was part of the refugee trail that came into the U.S. of immigrant actors that were fleeing Nazism, and ended up being in a lot of movies that took a stance against it. So he actually played Colonel Strasser in Casablanca. And I'm sure that I've always wondered, like, is that hard to, I was fleeing the Nazis, now I have to play a Nazi.
Right.
But I think to him it was saying, no, this is the first, and Casablanca really was one of the first films in America to take a stand publicly and say, we are against the Nazis and what they're doing. And so I think it's cool that he got to come and be a part of that. They had another actor, Twardowski, I believe. This one, I'm butchering all these names, so I apologize for everyone who knows how to say him. Twardowski, who also fled Nazi Germany. He was gay, and obviously the Nazis didn't want that either, so he fled, and he also ended up playing a role in Casablanca as well.
Oh, wow.
So all these guys who fled, and then, of course, on the other side, you have, so Caesar is actually the somnambulist, the sleepwalking character. That's Conrad Veidt, who played Colonel Strasser. And then you have Werner Krauss, who played Dr. Caligari, who was a very strong anti-Semite and Nazi Party supporter. So you have these both sides in this film.
Wow.
And it, to me, is such an interesting glimpse into post-World War I, very early in the rise of the Nazi Party in Germany. And there's just this weird thing, and you see who got pushed out and who got to stay. And it's just this weird dynamic. And you think of, like, okay, 10 years from now, you two actors that are on the same side in this movie are going to hate each other's guts to the point that one of you is going to try and kill the other and the other's going to flee the country. And to me, it's just such a weird concept.
Right.
To think of it from that point of view. Like, there was a point where they actually all worked together.
Right.
And what changed? What went from there? And I'm sure there's plenty of theories on that, but just that whole system that worked there. And I think it's just very interesting to me. I don't know. It's just, I just can't fathom
Well,
that.
kind of back to like what you were talking about of like, you know, what's a more accurate depiction of a time period.
Yeah.
A documentary with facts or something that is a story. And just like the idea of who's being casted and who's playing, like movies in this weird way are mirrors, right? So when we look at them, at least for me, when I look at them, it's like, okay, what was the reflection of the time at that period? You know,
Yeah.
that they're not leading the conversation; they're a reflection of the conversation.
Yeah. It really is.
And the expressionistic sets and makeup also kind of conveyed how everybody was discombobulated at that time and really weren't anchored in their lives. They all this upheaval and hate and the beginning rise of the 90s.
Yeah. I think, I totally agree. I think there's this big question of, expressionism. My understanding is expressionistic painting started a little before World War I. The films came in right after World War I. But obviously there's upheaval leading into World War I. There's this upheaval after. And what Hitler really got across that a lot of people loved was this stability. That I'm going to make us powerful. We're going to be here, and this is the way it's going to be. And I think that's exactly what, they were in this place of this expressionism was the primary form, or at least the big form of art at that time, representing the kind of, that discomfort, that what's going on in the world. It was kind of, expressionism is the idea of expressionism is we're externalizing the emotions. We're putting them out into physical form in the props, the sets, the paintings, whatever we're doing.
Right.
You're seeing it physically as if the emotion was a real thing. Mm-hmm. And so I think that was people trying to grapple with the world changing.
Yeah. No,
and that's
completely.
a perfect time for somebody who says, I'm going to take power and take advantage to come in and do this.
Right.
And I think you see that dynamic to an extent in the movie where Dr. Caligari uses Caesar, who's basically somebody who's brainwashed. He got hypnotized and gets him to do things in his sleep, do his bidding in his sleep. And so who played Dr. Caligari was, of course, an anti-Semitic Nazi. Mm-hmm. Who played Caesar was a Jewish man. Mm. And you look at this, and I mean, that may be overreading into the casting, but maybe not. Maybe that's a reflection of how society was going at that point.
Yeah.
When you're uncomfortable, when you feel not safe in your place, you look for safety in some groups, and people have tried to find that in suppressing other people over time. Right. And I think that's to an extent what you see in this film. And
right. Well,
therefore
we see it kind of play out a lot where whenever there's insecurities, whether it's economic or status, what happens is they pick on people with less of a voice, the more marginalized. Yeah. And it's like, it's really tragic.
Yeah. And who's more marginalized than somebody you have hypnotized to sleep all day and then wake up to do your bidding?
Right.
Like who can you take advantage of other than that? And so I think it really shows where they were and where they were going to an extent. Mm-hmm. And you do question, like the writer's stories change as to what their intent was over time. They say different things every 10 years when somebody asks them.
Right.
I read that the somnambulists kind of represented the public who were sleeping through all of this wave of Nazism. They were pretty much not paying attention.
Yeah, I think you have that side, and then you have the side of they were just trusting the government and listening to whatever the government or Dr. Caligari told them to do. And I think that from the writer's perspective, from what I could tell, that was their perspective of World War I is we have no reason to fight this war. This is the people in power using us to fight their war.
Right.
Which I think is a common theme just across human society. I've heard that from veterans I've interviewed today. This isn't my war. This is some guy in a fancy office's war. Mm-hmm. I've heard that many times from different veterans, and they're like, you don't hear that as much if they're a World War II veteran, but I've heard that in other more recent wars when I've interviewed them. And, and I think that's what these guys felt was, who? Archduke Ferdinand? I don't know who that is, but I guess we're going to go kill millions of our people for him. All right.
Yeah.
So I think that's
there's
the feeling there.
Just the way culture is references, I don't know if you're familiar with, I think it's called Buto. It's a type of Japanese dancing. It's this experimental dance, but these dancers are covered in white paint, very ghostly, and part of the analysis is after just the H-bomb, and it's there trying to understand something that's so grotesque,
How do we make sense of this?
But art is there to help us kind of cope and understand, when I think power and politics and greed corrupt, art is there to kind of try to help heal it.
Yeah. It's the voice of the common kind of what's the common pieces of society, I think.
Yeah.
A lot of times.
Yeah.
So, well, with that,
Cool.
I say we
On that
jump
note,
in and see what's going on in 1920s Germany.
Right.
It ain't pretty.
Her
So
Zoom
this
link isn't-
version, the Chain Tape Collective, was organized as a Creative Commons project where composers from all over the world were asked to compose a piece of this movie, music for a piece, and they combined it all together and put it out in the Creative Commons, the public domain for people to use, recreate, work with. So that's why we're showing this version. I think it's a really cool project, really fun.
Did her Zoom potentially go down?
That I can't tell. Arachna, did we lose you?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes. It looks like your picture is frozen. But
My laptop had a glitch. Maybe that's part of it.
okay. As long as we can hear you, hopefully the video will catch up here in a second.
Yeah.
So yeah, they call this an Exquisite Corpse version because that's what they called their album that they
right.
composed together.
The type they use for theater.
Sorry, you cut out there a little bit.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I was just going to say, Exquisite Corpse is the typeface that I use for Beware Theater.
Oh, really?
Oh, cool.
Oh, that's funny.
Small world.
It's funny. They threw in this is from a different version of the film, a title for the 50-minute version that was distributed in the U.S. in the 50s. But they put it on, this is the hour and 11-minute version.
Oh.
So it's a funny, like,
Right.
Frankenstein
Right.
type
Right.
of
Back to Frankenstein.
put together. Yeah, it all comes back. So they had done all custom hand lettering
Wow.
for the titles. This is not the official. Very few prints actually have the official original hand lettering.
Ooh, yeah. Now we have that color, and then starting to see like creative little vignettes of how they're like framing
They do a lot of that
things.
close in and out on here.
Yeah. Spirits surround us on every side. They have driven me from hearth and home, from wife and child.
So this is the beginning of our frame story where he's telling, this is what I experienced. And the writers were not happy about it.
Also.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, you know, good ideas have 1,000 parents, but bad ideas seem to be parentless. You know? It's like,
Pretty much. Nobody had that idea.
right? It's like, oh, it flopped. Hey, listen, I had nothing to do
Who
with
would even
that.
come up with that? Like, this isn't strange at all. Arachna, I'm going to see if you can hang up and call us back because your picture is frozen and see if that resets it. A nice little painting of Holstenwall. I'm on the bank. I'm on the bank. Arachna, are you still with us?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
We can hear you.
Do you
I
want to try?
don't have a video for some reason.
Do you want to try and hang up and call back and see if we can get it to restart your video?
Okay. All right, I'll try.
All right.
Thank you.
Yep.
Ooh, yeah, look at these shapes.
Just gonna do microphone drumming sound effects.
It's funny, I kept scratching my beard. I was like, oh, I need to stop that. Those things
Might
are
hear
probably
that.
completely picking it up. Yeah, you might want to close it on your side too.
This is public media.
Welcome to public media.
Did you pay for this? No. Exactly.
That one guy, though, he's going to be like, oh, God, these nitwits.
How have we not talked about being nitwits yet?
I don't know if you saw, but we were on the channel while we were doing this, our other episode.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep. A couple of nitwits over there. We've got our first piece of feedback. We're just a couple of nitwits talking too much.
I'm just surprised that people are watching. I didn't know these cords went
I'm glad
anywhere.
people watch, yeah. I thought this was just for those kids that left already.
Although for really late night, having people leave, I'm going to have to borrow that for my show. That was pretty great. Thank you, Nick Turner. You're amazing. I'll see you, friend.
See ya.
Kalamazoo Film Society. Italian food. Oh, yeah. Those sets. It's so
Come,
cool.
Francis, let's go to the fair. You know, I guess there was a time when like that was the thing to look forward to, is the fairs coming into town.
Oh, yeah. No, the fair was pretty serious.
Like,
She's still trying to connect.
I guess. What was that noise that just happened, Anthony? Oh. Oh, I thought I heard it ringing. Yeah.
I tried to call her, but
Oh.
yeah,
She must be having internet issues.
they said she isn't online. She hasn't sent a message or called back or anything.
Keep my phone on.
Because she just joins like a Zoom link.
Yeah, Skype.
Wait.
Yes. It's a great day to have the engineer out. Of all the days.
It's all right, though. Welcome back. Your video's working.
We can see you now.
Technology.
We're just technical issues galore today.
But that's all right. That's not going to
That's
stop
what
our
makes it
love of
fun.
cinema.
We're going to keep watching.
It's not going to stop our love of community. I'm glad that I get
I
to
like that
hang out
Mickey
with
Mouse
you too.
glove. Sorry.
Ooh, yeah.
I just noticed that.
Right.
There's no way Walt Disney didn't copy that.
We were
Yep.
just commenting on these sets and how beautiful they are and just the shapes, and we can see it just that level of pushing the envelope.
See, and this is what I've always wanted. From the moment I saw this film and realized that they just built this whole village in a soundstage. I'm like, that's what I want. I want to build a town in a soundstage and just make crap there.
Yeah.
Like, that's the way to do it. And they actually, yeah,
Yeah.
yep, it's amazing. I don't think they did any vertical or horizontal, like purely vertical or horizontal lines in this film.
Wow.
Yeah. And I believe most of these walls are not more than 6 or 7 feet high because the studio they were in was undersized and they couldn't make it full size. So they had to make everything
Really?
shorter,
Wow. That's wild.
which is just a fun trick. If you actually look at Disneyland, on Main Street Disneyland, the buildings, the second and third stories are not full stories tall. They're smaller just to make it feel more like this little world in this little space. So like the first story is maybe regular size, and then it slowly
then
gets
it
smaller, but
has-
not enough that we notice, unless
Really?
you know.
Right, right.
It's just a great perception trick when nobody has to go in there.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of show.
Nobody's ever tried to recreate this set.
That would be really cool if somebody made like a walkthrough of this set.
Yeah.
I'd go to that. I mean, I'd hope that there were a lot of slides or something. I'd expect to just be able to slide everywhere.
Right.
And that guy just emerged out of the depths.
Blueprint somewhere.
Yeah, they gotta be, right? Now you got me wanting to look.
Well, or maybe they started at the front and just rigged it all the way to the back.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe.
just kept going. Let's see.
And then when the
Re-
whisper all fell down.
I love this guy, just like crazy eyes
Ooh.
around. Like,
He's a tall glass of water.
mm-hmm.
I'd take him to the Olive Garden.
I would not want to meet him in a dark alley.
Like
Clip
that guy's-
that. Send that to me. That was good.
Well,
take him to the
he just
altar.
has that electric soul man look.
Oh man. Yep, he looks like he's up to. I can't think of the word now. I was gonna say canoodling, but I don't think that's what he's up to.
Can I get a bowl of the canoodles?
The canoodles.
That's
Oh,
Yeah.
it is a deep that you can see moving away.
Yeah.
yeah,
Like
fairly
it looks
deep.
painted backdrop.
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks like there's a curved bowling alley back
Even the
there.
protest sign isn't straight.
Yeah. Everything's a little crooked here.
Right.
It's how I
It's
feel
like we're
inside.
entering warped times, you know?
Oh yeah. What's that? A crocodile? Oh, it's just a. What is that? What's he got?
Oh, I think it's for photography.
Oh yeah, yeah. A big old bell. I heard a bell ringing when he clinked it. I'm a little confused.
It's echoing through time.
Yeah. Oh, wait a second. Who's got the hottest act in the fair?
Yeah, standing on top of a stage and getting people to gather, that was a skill much needed back then.
Yeah. Amazing Caesar, the somnambulist.
Somnambulist.
Somnambulist is literally just a fancy word for sleepwalker.
Oh. I'm going to use that someday. Soon. Act two.
A lot of build up for that.
Dramatic pauses, you know. That might be the first of a strange series of murders occurred.
I'll tell you what, that's something I was reading some interviews. It's the AFI's interviews with great filmmakers that they took and published into a book. And there's, I forget her name now, a famous editor who was talking about how she always followed the advice of somebody before her who was like, let it breathe. And nobody knows how to do that anymore. Like, let the shot breathe. Give it space. Give it time.
Yeah,
Like nowadays we cut to everything. And
Right.
we're always in close up.
yeah.
And very few people know how to stage and block anymore.
That's
And I think
true.
I just like that let it breathe is something that stuck with me. I think they let that Act 2 sign coming up breathe a little long, but
Right.
just that idea of let it breathe, let it soak,
Right.
let it take its time.
Yeah, let it breathe. Don't give it a lunch break, but
Yeah, right? Like, don't murder it. Ooh, I like those hats.
yeah.
Just that round one. Kind of Smokey the Bear-esque.
Yeah, it's funny with the last film I had in the First Friday series, the art show, TM. Me and my co-producer went back and forth about letting things breathe too much. But as an editor, I had worked on some of those episodes so long that I just started to trim them down naturally. And it's like, you know, you got to bring in a fresh pair of eyes too to know if it is breathing or taking too long or too short.
Yeah, you do. You really do. And I went into this phase of like editing everything super concise, as tight as could be. And now I'm like trying to find the balance. And I just shot something where I had to use that. It was kind of like, okay, somebody else had edited it, and I went back to do a re-edit because I was like, I want to change it a little bit. And at first I was like, okay, I'm going to basically tighten everything up. And by the end I was like, no, I think about half the shots I lengthened
Really?
and half of them I closed in. It's just
so,
knowing when. You
okay,
have
yeah.
to feel out when.
That's those
It's
dynamics.
That the one part I'm not not big on editing. Not my favorite thing. But the one part I really enjoy is that rhythmic side where you just let it, you just feel it out. How long should I hold on this? And just, you know, and of course that's hard because that can be affected by your mood, how long you should stay on that shot. But getting that feeling, that natural gut, this is where this should end, this is where the next one should start, is a real skill that some people just really have.
Yeah. No, I've had a sketch idea about an unhappy editor who just slowly edits a film down to 0 minutes, and he's like,
that would
perfect.
Be me. You're like, this is it. I think
yeah,
we need
I
to
love
make
the
that.
cut in the curtain too is even at a weird angle. It's like a full commitment to this world. And yeah, the way the edges trail off. The crowd is freaked out. This guy's been asleep for 25 years?
If they said like, hey, this is like a sleepy man, you'd be like, whatever. But you said, oh, the somnambulist. Everyone's a little scared.
Right.
It's good marketing on this guy's part.
My cousin
for sure.
sleeps all the time. Oh, I can't sell tickets to him.
He's fine. Nobody's lining up. And by cabinet, does he just mean coffin?
I think so.
Like, it kind of...
But they're like, call it cabinet. That's a little easier to understand.
So better. Then if it were a coffin, it would really just be a steal of Dracula, I guess. That guy's crazy eyes again.
Yeah.
I love the makeup on chairs. They're like
Pick up Caesar, I, Caligari, Yamasta command you.
What was great about these movies is you could literally send them anywhere and just retranslate the title card. You don't have to worry about dubbing it.
Right. I didn't think about that.
It's like, man, the simplicity of silent movies. Nope. It's really hard to tell a story that way. But you don't have to worry about the language barrier. They literally go anywhere.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
Interestingly, eye makeup's on the underside of his eyes, not the upside.
Yeah. I guess that's what somebody who sleeps for 25 years does.
Yeah.
Those eyebrows, though.
Yeah, it's all eyebrows.
Yep. That's how you really sell a monster, is the eyebrows.
And slow walking. That's also something that's tied through, you know?
It seems
Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Again, entertainment back then, it was a very different landscape.
It's a little bit of a lower standard.
Right. It reminds me of John Mulaney has a joke about how like there was so little to do that in the turn of the century people would just go watch boats leave and just like wave their hands.
I've always wondered, you watch a movie and it's like, right. But I just watched Death on the Nile and like they pulled off from their port and like 100 people ran down to say bye. I was like, this is like the 8th boat that left this hour. Like, what are you doing?
See, but it's not that crazy because, you know, there was our championship parade downtown and my mom and nephew went, and in my head I was like, a parade is such like 1930s entertainment.
Who goes to
Like,
parades?
we're going to go downtown, they're going to be on cars, and we just wave.
Like, this is just the thing.
But it's about groups, it's about community,
Yep.
it's about excitement.
Yeah. I don't enjoy parades. Unless they're, like,
Parades?
Parades.
Telling you to walk this way.
Yeah. Now that, fun fact on that song was inspired, Steven Tyler was watching Young Frankenstein.
Really?
And Igor comes to pick him up at the train station and says, walk this way.
Really?
He wakes up the next morning and writes that song.
Cool. Art inspiring art.
Yep. It's just such an obscure line to be like, I'm gonna write a song off of that. Right. But the delivery is also great. That movie's just like such a masterpiece.
Oh yeah.
Like, why are people so horrified?
Was he laughing?
That's what I was trying to figure out.
It looked like he was ready to throw up.
Yeah. It's either a horrified or a maniacal laugh.
Okay.
I'm going back to nighttime.
Now the writers were friends who hung out. They have multiple places they claim they got inspiration from, such as, we went to the fair one day and said, what if we wrote a movie about a fair? Like, okay. But they also, one of them had believed that he had gone to a fair years earlier, and he saw a girl get called into the bushes by a man, kind of a man hiding out in the bushes, and was like, whatever. Next day, she was murdered.
Whoa.
And so that was part of his inspiration for this. Kind of like, well, okay. You watched her go to her death.
You can't say meet me at the corner of this street and that street where there aren't any corners.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I wonder if like they even have that word in their vocabulary.
Right.
Like, is that in their language? We don't even use corner. Like,
Right.
meet me at the pointy point.
Meet me at the Warble on 9th and...
How do they ever meet each other? I guess it's a small town.
So you just can see everywhere.
You just wander around and you're like, oh, there you are. I mean, look at this. Look at this. What?
Has
that's
anyone
like
made a
his trailer.
movie about them making this? Like
That
one of
would be
those-
cool.
Maybe that's our idea.
Yeah.
We can pitch that for Series Fest. If Series Fest is watching, I haven't given up on you, Series Fest.
We will be there.
I'm gonna join you one day.
I'm gonna dominate you one day, Series Fest.
No, he uses a lot of that Oculus transition, where the
Yeah.
eyes open and close.
Yeah, in such a unique, like organic. It's not a perfect circle.
Yeah.
It's such a weird way to do it. That one kind of was fun.
Right.
A lot of them are. I'm curious how they do that.
Maybe he used his hands and just
Yeah,
like that.
close it in. I like that lantern. Like I can't tell if it's painted or real though.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the cool part about us watching movies kind of grow in the way that we did on this show, is that slowly there starts to become these moments of like, I don't know exactly how they did that, right?
Yeah.
But with the early ones, it's very obvious how they did it,
Uh-huh.
where it's like, oh, it's just a stage.
Yeah.
But then the artistry starts to come of like, how did they pull this off?
Yeah.
And that's like the magic of it.
Yeah, it went from the first one we could explain how they did every little trick, and here it's like, what is that? What's going on here?
And that, close your eyes. It's not round. It's kind of funny shape.
Yeah, it is.
Almost like you're closing your eyes here.
Right, right. Ooh, now we're getting some good shadow
Very,
play.
very organic.
Oh God.
And, like brilliant to show it. This is much more scary than what it would look like with their technology. Just watching that.
Right, right.
Seeing the shadow is a great technique.
Yeah, because the imagination takes over, and it's the imagination that makes it scary.
Yeah. The next mumming. Yeah, I think it's interesting. They kind of just created.
Dead shadow on the street.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting to try and tell because a lot of the shadows were just painted directly on the set,
Really?
and it's just to accentuate that hard lighting,
Right.
which is what you later see in film noir. That's really a part that they stole, except they didn't paint the shadows on. But
Right.
I'm always trying to figure out, like, okay, which parts did they paint and which parts are actual shadow?
Mr. Francis, Master Allen is dead. Murdered.
Murder
Is Moida.
is murder.
Moiter.
Moida.
Okay.
This is how you have to get news, too.
None of these people
You
are
just walk
grieving
across
well.
town and tell someone got murdered.
I feel like in this town you could just yell out the window and everyone would know.
Right. Kind of has a
There's
Whoville.
taken a long time processing murder.
Look at that chair. Look at how many rungs and how tall it is.
I love that.
Is that the old sleep chair?
That's the only one I've seen.
Early model of a sleep chair, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like the way that even in the window, the view, it's like such a creative choice to show the background, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, what, 6 shapes? But you can make out like those are rooftops.
And as I'm like looking at this, I just started thinking like, this reminds me a little bit of a dark version of Dr. Seuss.
Yeah.
You look at all his stuff's weird angles,
Right, right.
not shaped normally. I just wonder if he was inspired by the expressionist movement.
Maybe.
So it took it 10 minutes to process this. Some
Yeah.
analysts predicted this.
I know, he would not make a good detective.
Yeah, it's not the swiftest.
It's just like, and you're dead too now.
Right.
Oh, there's see those stools?
Yeah. It's like they're on a really high piano stool.
Yeah, I feel like they were like, we don't know how to make a crooked chair because you'd slide off of it, so we
Right.
got to just make them really high or really low and stuff.
Right.
Those are the only things that are straight. I like that mustache though. That's pretty
Yeah,
nice.
like policeman's outfit, or it looks like a bellboy.
They do, don't they? Sir, maybe if you needed some luggage carried, we could do something for you, but we're just gonna stare at you right now.
Right.
Or a fake mustache.
There is something frightful in our midst.
What's that guy? Oh, that's his hand.
I think he's just.
I thought it was somebody else's hand, like
Right,
doing this
right,
behind
right,
him.
right,
I was
right.
I'm so frightened, my hand is paralyzed.
like, can you do this?
I've come down with a case of overacting.
Yeah, that is something. The acting has been toned down in this film from the previous films, but there are still, with him especially, there's still some of that big over the top.
Yeah, I'm feeling inspired too. This would be fun to be able to have like such cool sets. And
Yeah.
I actually just got a pair of flats that are these 10 feet walls
That's nice.
that I put in my office, and now I have them. It's like a dog who catches a car. I'm like, now what do I do?
now I have it. Yeah.
But now, seeing this, maybe I'll do have to chop them up and make
So
them
you can tilt them
crooked.
sideways. Just don't drop one on yourself.
Yeah, directly on the
Shadows,
center.
how do you know where the stairs are? I wonder how many people fell down.
I know.
Oh, jeez. Yeah,
this guy-
OSHA
he-
would have a field day.
He seemed to have taken them rather. I'm just blanking on words today.
It's all right.
Rather gingerly. There we go. We're gonna go with gingerly today. Took those stairs rather gingerly.
Gingerly.
I don't think that's the right word at all, but we're gonna go with it.
You know what?
So this scene, the extra 20 minutes is a movie.
Yeah. This is actually why this version is longer. As it turns out,
Forever.
One staircase scene.
Germany hadn't quite figured out that let it breathe versus tighten it up thing yet. Look
Yeah.
at that chair though.
Yeah.
She just found out. She kind of looks like she's already dead.
Yeah, goth vibes.
Yeah.
And he kind of looked like he's already crazy.
He does look a little crazy. I want to know what they're saying when they mouth stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like how that plant is even stacked weird, and just
yeah,
the
it
amount of
is.
shapes they get to play with.
Yeah. That would be pretty fun just to make us just to design the set for this.
This is an interesting scene with curves versus all those angles before.
That's
Everything in the scene is curved.
That's interesting. I didn't notice that. Yeah, you have like the petal texture on the wall.
Yeah, the arches on the wall, and then the curtains that come down, and this delicate folding.
It's just, yeah, it seems justified.
So they're going to abandon him or question him?
Yeah, what do you do with this? I'm gonna wake him up.
Yeah. I feel like it must be examine, like cross-examine.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, unless you're opening their eyelids. When the shadows lay darkest. Ooh, I like that. I might borrow that. When are you coming over? When the
Very
shadows lay
poetic.
darkest.
Darkest.
And they're like, so 6:30?
6:37 maybe.
You know, this set would make a great board game. You know,
That
kind
would.
of a Clue kind of thing. All these wonky angles and stuff.
Yeah. God, there's so many great ideas coming out now. We could make a movie about it. We could make the board game.
Right. Merch. We got ourselves an industry here.
What did they miss out?
This is public domain. We can sell whatever we
Right,
want
yeah.
on Dr. Caligari the board game.
For like film enthusiasts.
Yeah, like, who wants
it's such a niche
play
market.
Dr. Caligari the board
problem
game.
is it takes 4 hours to play the game.
Oh yeah, you'll all be a somnambulist by the end.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Ooh, rowdy bunch.
Yeah. Call it the somnambulist game. It makes you go to sleep.
Yep. It's a great game, but you're done. I just love these little, because they're not even like center. Like look at this. It's like opening up. I think you might be right about the hand thing. Just slowly pull it out. Is he gonna feed him?
That was me this morning before I had a cup of coffee.
Uh-huh.
Don't even talk to me before I've had a cup of coffee.
He's gonna just give him some mush or something.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what your coffee looked like?
Yeah.
Because that's not coffee. I think he had something else.
I don't even know what he's feeding him.
Probably like a protein shake.
I think it's paper mache.
Elbow.
So weird. I just set the guy up and put some food in his mouth, and he just happens to chew it and swallow it on his own.
Yeah, but what happens on the other end?
Yeah. It's like, I guess that box
Right.
got a toilet in there somewhere.
Right. The costumes were pulled from a wide variety of time periods. That's also an interesting choice.
Yeah, I couldn't find why. I'm guessing they just wanted it to feel very like, this is a not real place. This is very surreal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's like kind of like the other thing about just stories moving us. There's also something about us being able to understand things that don't make sense, right? Because like dreams are something everyone kind of understands in a way that like things don't have to make sense for us to know what they mean, you know? So like by incorporating all these different outfits from time periods, it's like, oh yeah, I'm actually very familiar with things not making sense.
Yeah. I had a dream the other night that my dog stole somebody's car and was driving it around, and I was chasing him on foot. I was like, he's not a good driver. I should be able to catch him. I only caught him after he wrecked it into somebody else. By the time I got there, they were pulling the guy away on the stretcher, and then my dog was just like wrapped up funny, but was like fine. And the police officer comes at me, throws his badge at me, and says, "Who lets their dog drive a car?" And
What does that mean?
I was like, that's police harassment to throw your badge at me. and then I woke up. So it was just kind of, I don't know.
So who's this guy? Has he been arrested for the murders?
He might be a suspect.
He's got like a stick of some sort, so he's probably did it.
He's the neighborhood like thug, so they were like, bring him in.
Bring him in.
Usual suspect?
I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, and even the
Get
like,
anything out of him.
Yep. He's fast asleep.
Be kind of funny if he's out of the food.
Yeah.
right.
Right in that guy's face as he looks down. The acting of the eyes.
Yeah.
You had to just think about that stuff more when that was all, it was silent, and that was all you had to get your point across, was your facial expressions and your movements. I say they tear that place down. Oh, never mind, we found a guy with a stick.
Ended up died.
Where did the second killing happen? I missed that.
Mm.
I'm not focusing very well, I guess.
The funny part about like if you were to start to like build things like crooked, they would still have to be structurally sound.
Yeah.
So you would still have to figure out a way to like support them upright.
Build them up, yeah. Yeah, no, I'm curious how, I guess, like that, when he goes inside, it's got to not be into the actual trailer.
You know, if you played this movie at twice the speed, it would probably make more sense.
It probably would. They run pretty slow, don't they? I don't know. I think this one might have been shot at like 12 or 15 frames a second.
Oh wow.
How many frames?
12 or 15 maybe.
Okay.
Pretty slow.
Okay, Act 4.
And you
Anxious
can really,
about
when
the
there's
long
no
absence
music,
of
you
her
can
father.
catch it a little. Absence of her.
Oh yeah, now we're back to the round kind of motif.
Yeah, that round cake swirl.
Is that a cake?
That's what I was thinking. But I think,
Flower arrangement.
yeah, I see the flowers now.
The whole police squad is there. Where were you? What are you up to?
What you been doing? It's true that I tried to kill the old woman. Why does he stand so stiff? Thought they were blaming me. This guy was thinking ahead. He was like, shoot.
I'm totally gonna get blamed for this.
The two other murders.
2 other murders.
So he did one murder.
Right?
Yeah.
Listen, I
I
just want to
only
be
murdered-
known for my work.
Yep. I only
don't
murdered
want-
3 people,
Right.
not the other 8.
Yeah, you figure out which one I killed, and I didn't kill the other 2.
Right? Yeah, you guys have more pressing things you should be working on.
Yeah.
I just did 1. You got 2
One.
on your hands now.
I didn't even succeed.
Okay, but they were able to reuse some of the sets too, so that does help
Mm-hmm.
with like
Back at the fair, which is
effectiveness.
nobody's going to the fair now because apparently people get murdered after they go to the fair.
Boo.
Ooh. Well, I didn't realize there's like steps there.
Mm-hmm.
Or she's really good at that one gag.
Right. How's Deadly holding up?
Oh, he's. Wake up, Dad. Okay. Yeah, he kind of snoozed off.
Snoozed off. Too slow for him.
Right. Oh, back to the place where it started.
It's like, what are Dr. Caligari's motives? Like, I just like sending somebody else to kill random people.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's like the funny thing too is like, you know, movies now or shows now, it's all about subtext, right? It's like, what are they not saying? And that's
Yeah.
like a little bit there of like, oh, come on in, right?
Yeah.
But it's not like the subtleness of modern day cinema where it's like, oh yeah, he said he would be here shortly. But then you see a little
Yeah.
thing and you're like, I don't trust them.
Yeah. Like, there's no way we should trust this guy.
Boy, I wouldn't follow him anywhere. He looks like a trouble bird.
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
stay clear of him.
Yeah, anyone who like saunters like that.
Like that. Like, when they come into town like that, you're kind of like,
Yeah.
maybe not.
Yeah, anyone who does this.
Should just be avoided at all times.
Yeah, snidely whiplash.
Yeah. This is like a how to find a murderer to kill you 101.
Ooh, I like her dress. That's got some cool
That's nice.
designs.
This kind of matches the walls, right?
Stripes. Oh, she's curious, wants to see the sleeping guy.
Is he really asleep? I'd punch him in the gut just to see if he was faking it.
Right, yeah.
It'd be funny if he fell out and just
Just
flat back
dropped.
down.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like he's got one eye open right now. Does it look like that to you, or is that just me?
It kind of looks like there's one eye open.
It's
So
interesting.
this,
Part for you. You just stand around and look like you're asleep.
Yeah.
so that's the
Easy.
attraction of like this person has
Been asleep for-
sleepwalks, right?
Yeah, is always asleep and does what I tell them to do in their sleep, I guess.
Right. That's an easy sideshow to pull off
Yeah.
if they were gonna fake it. you
Yeah.
know?
After the funeral. God, even the walls are crooked. The cemetery walls.
Even the crosses have a little bend. in them.
Yeah. It's a wobbly. Not a well-attended funeral, that's for sure.
Mm.
Well, that was a funeral.
I never really liked Alan anyways.
He was a complicated man.
Yep.
Nighttime. We're back in the blue, baby. Yeah, like even look at the cut off on top, very organic, right?
Mm-hmm. It is. Like, that's what I love about this, is everything's so organic. It's real.
Yeah. Such a departure from things before it.
Yeah. And I think things after it now are so polished and CGI. Trying to look so perfect that it's obviously CGI. And, like, this is just real.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's all paper.
Right.
Such origami pieces.
It's all
Well, he
right,
didn't
though.
investigate very well.
Yeah, he just like crawled up,
Like-
looked.
I mean, like, he snuck up there and then just looked in and turned around and walked away. Like, what was, like, half sneak?
Yeah. But no, overall, I think this was success. And I mean, just
Oh,
like
yeah.
our first Friday nights, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first couple, it takes a while.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, even like my show, Really Late Night, the first ones took a while and didn't work. And it's all about just like getting the things worked out, you know?
Yeah.
But we've had more people here tonight than the
Yeah.
other ones, so
Yeah.
I feel good.
It's improvement.
And I feel like, you know, there's hopefully no one's calling in to complain about our show. You know?
They will. Oh, they will. If you're
We're just
watching
such a
this,
controversial set.
come down and watch the next one with us.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Well, I wonder if they had dailies for this kind of movie.
That's-
back
yeah.
then, so they could see, how dragging it is, or if they
Yeah.
were on purpose trying to draw it out.
Yeah, that's a good, I wonder.
I feel like by this point they probably figured out how to
Dailies.
get it, how to
Yeah.
get dailies.
I would
Maybe not like a
imagine.
fully like treated
Colored and
scene,
everything.
but enough to be like, did we get it?
Or at least a storyboard.
Yeah.
What's so interesting, I wonder, like, this was obviously very successful. People liked it. It's still popular today. It influenced a lot of what came after it. I always wonder with silent films, like, a lot of times they were accompanied by musicians, whether it was just a piano, whether it was the big organs, sometimes the live orchestras at the big theaters in bigger cities. Did they ever just show them without that accompaniment? And if so, how did that go? Like, have movies always needed a music accompaniment?
Right.
Yeah, I wonder.
To
I
work.
bet, like, I wonder if it was like how things are nowadays. Like maybe smaller theaters didn't have it or
Yeah.
something. But
And that's what I've always wondered. Or like, did even I grew up watching the Beverly Hillbillies, and Aunt Pearl used to play piano in the local theater house out in the Tennessee mountains.
hey,
You know, it was like a town of like 100 people, and 10 people showed up to the movie, and they had the piano player.
Right,
but
right.
was that just for the TV show? I don't know.
maybe they did because, like, I mean, obviously, like Nickelodeons, right? Those didn't have
Mm-hmm.
music, so that was like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or did they though?
Now he's killing her, so yeah, fast music is helping.
Yeah, right? It just like it pushes that. I've just always wondered what it does. It's incredible how much hearing the right notes affects our emotions more than seeing the right picture.
Absolutely.
It's always astounding to me, like, music is so powerful and in so many different ways.
Was there an original
I like this.
score
That's good.
for this?
I don't believe they had an official one, and if they did, it was lost.
Because like Nosferatu, Hans Erdmann wrote that score.
Yeah.
Art was lost, but he was the official.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard, I think it was the original, they played the first year of the Denver Silent Film Festival, which actually starts tomorrow. And the first year I went to that, they did Nosferatu with a live orchestra playing that original score, and it was amazing.
Oh wow.
Like, it was so cool. And they still, Alamo Drafthouse actually, a few weeks ago, did this movie with kind of a rock band that accompanied it.
Oh cool.
Yeah, and they did Nosferatu as well.
Metropolis also, when they short
Oh, yeah.
this version that had rock numbers.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's always really fun to watch these with a live music accompaniment now.
Yeah. So I know we talked about this before, but do you want to tell the audience about your show? And
Yeah,
like,
for anyone who maybe just tuned in later.
yeah, I'm curious. How many episodes have you done?
Oh, you're talking to me?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Sorry, I nodded off here for a minute. Yeah,
Oh, he's dead.
I think I have like 78 shows.
Wow.
That's
Well,
amazing.
78 black and white movies. For 20s, 60s, until things turned to color. And again, I can only use the one driven liquid paint. And so I do have the two silent ones, most Rodman and Metropolis. But then they range from wacky sci-fi movies to actually Bengali movies in public domain. House on Haunted Hill, Last Man on Earth. And then a couple of my personal favorites. One is Spider Baby, which was Lon Chaney Jr.'s last movie, which is really quirky and interesting. And then there's this Japanese. After World War II, everyone was afraid of the nuclear bomb and aliens and stuff like that. But Japan, obviously, they did a whole different movie of what that was.
Yeah.
But the TV seemed to like Superman, and they had a children's serial based on Superman, kind of like takeoff on Superman, called Starman, which is goofy and weird, and they don't really beat each other up. They do acrobatics. I mean, it's just bonkers, and that's also one of my favorites.
That sounds great.
The way I do my shows is I introduce them, and then I cut in a couple times during the show, usually to explain a little bit, give some history, tell some jokes, and then at the end of the show, I create anywhere between a 5 and a 10-minute original sketch that I write, and it's little movies that are loosely based on the movie that you just watched.
Oh, cool.
That's great.
And I have to say, this year, 2023, is my 10th anniversary of posting crappy movies. And so I'm putting together an anniversary show, and I will share that with the channel so you can enjoy it. But I'll do a little retrospective and then talk about some of the movies and
Whoa, that's awesome.
quizzes and jokes and some other stuff.
That's so cool.
That's amazing. Yeah,
I'm excited to see that.
So it's kind of, I mean, it's not creepy. Some of the Deadly's actually the comedian, and I'm the straight guy.
I love it. That's amazing. Congrats on 10 years.
Yeah.
Everywhere theater, I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
It's
a
lot of fun.
Yeah, we love it.
I'm gonna
And
have
I
to
gotta
see
give
that.
a shout out to public access television because I grew up in, and every Saturday night I would watch Chiller Theater, which is Chilly Billy Hardly, and I thought, geez, I'd love to be able to do that. We had wax seats and old black and white shows. And then when I moved to Fort Collins, I became involved with the local public access television station. And I learned to shoot and edit and make my own shows. And so I'm very grateful for FC Public Media and Longmont Public Media, you guys, and at one time it was Denver Public Media that created the show. So I really appreciate and understand the power of access television.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. No, big proponent.
On streaming on it's called horrorhost.net, which is called Vortex, Monster Channel, and on Roku, Tingler Television, Other Worlds TV, and Betamax TV.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's great.
And it's been a lot of creepy fun.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, I'm excited to see the retrospective, and yeah, I love public access because it allows us creative people to all meet and have fun and have shows together. All right, so it looks like they're coming to crack the
We're
case.
gonna get this guy.
Yeah.
They're gonna take him down.
Oh, he has that weird glove hand
Those
thing.
big gloves, yeah.
My cabinet.
Not my cabinet. Now, I don't know if it popped up. I believe there's a fact that Dr. Caligari Warner Krause was actually called. That's so fake. Yep.
They're like, hey.
They're terrified of it. Warner Krause had been called the Man of a Thousand Faces, similar to
Really?
Lon Chaney Sr. Just kind of interesting that that title kind of went around at this time, I think. He was also other actors in Germany had called him the greatest actor of all time.
Whoa.
But they also call him a demonic genius. So
Oh,
I don't know,
okay.
I guess you get both.
Yeah, you get the good with the bad.
Yeah. So there's sometimes a little crazy in that genius.
Well, Spider Baby, that being the last movie Lon Chaney Jr. did, I think they made the movie like 11 days. And the deal was
Wow.
Lon Chaney Jr. would not drink during that whole time that he made it.
Yeah.
So they hurried it up because of him.
That makes sense. Yeah. Just
But,
to work,
you know,
to be able to
he
work
sang
with him.
the title song to that, and I think it was on the hit page even. And really, he had a good voice, and he was very good narrator.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Lon Chaney Sr. was in Phantom of the Opera. I'm trying to remember what else.
Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yep, that's the other one. Yeah. Yeah, those two. Senior is definitely a better actor than Junior for sure on that one, but kind of worked his father's name, I think, in all those roles.
Did he do puppies?
I'm sorry, you cut out there on that. Did he do what?
Lon Chaney is senior. Did he do talking movies?
That is a good question. I don't know. Now I'm going to look that up. I don't know
So
if.
we never heard his voice.
Yeah, I don't know that we ever did. Because I think, like, pretty quick, Junior was in the films pretty quick as talkies came in. Senior.
Junior was a really big guy. He was like 6 feet.
Yeah, he kind of built to play a big monster, I guess. Apparently, he only played one sound film, a remake of The Unholy 3. Apparently, he had a pretty good, versatile voice. Oh, a lot of books.
Yeah, I love that chair. I want one. It's like 12 rungs.
I'm honestly surprised there is not people like selling, like, we're selling Dr. Caligari's chair.
Again, that's such a niche market.
I guess, yeah.
I
feel like people would buy it.
Asylum, right?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Yep, and he's a patient trying to escape.
White coats.
The insane asylum has curved lines, and the real clothes all jagged.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good catch. I didn't even catch that before. He is Caligari.
And I read that this movie is also the first one to have a twist.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, which would like also make it so popular.
Yeah.
Like from a storytelling perspective, the first time
Never
a big
happened.
twist came, people would be like, "What?"
Yeah.
What was the Leonardo DiCaprio movie that was kind of loosely based on it?
Oh, gosh.
He was a and he was actually a maid.
Is that the Shutter Island?
Shutter Island?
Yeah,
maybe?
Shutter Island.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that was very...
Boy, I didn't see that one coming.
Yeah. It's kind of like the classic, like, oh, what if twist, but then you never see him coming when they hit you. You're like, oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
And the other movie, it wasn't all a dream.
This one or another one?
Well, did the guy dream all this or not? She said it was a story that was told.
Yeah, I think to me, it's always been kind of left into this, because all of a sudden now these other guys are listening to him about Dr. Caligari. I've always felt that they kind of left it open-ended as to whether it was who to believe or not, but also kind of pointed to Dr. Caligari as the mastermind, the evil mastermind. Because now these guys are like, oh, you're right, let's look at this. But we never get like solid proof outside of there's this book and this is private study. So I don't know. It's kind of one of those.
Perfect movie to be a nightmare.
Yeah, it really feels like a dream. 1993.
Monk.
He's old.
The plot thickens.
It seems like it.
That definitely is in the genre, right? Being 1,000
Yeah.
years old,
Yeah,
900 years old.
too old.
Yeah, and even that shot, like that's shot from like way up high and angled, interesting, you know?
Yeah, and the interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whom he had completely forced into his power to carry out his adventurous plans. For months he caused in town after town murders. Lots of murders.
That's a murder.
Murder's bad. We do want to just let everyone know that's our official stance
Official stance.
of Public Domain Movie Club. Murder's bad.
Murder. Don't do it, please. If you've been
Make a
thinking
movie
about it,
instead.
stop.
Be
It's an
creative.
ambulance that turned into a dummy. Where'd the dummy come from?
Yeah, like, wait a second. Case histories and notes. This is convenient.
Yeah, that is very convenient.
That is nice handwriting, too, and just, like, so well put together. This Caligari's...
Something we don't do, Shannon.
It's nice that, you know, like, the thing they were investigating on just happened to be there.
Right.
Like, that's what was top on his desk.
There's just less books, so.
But the Santalis was submitted to the asylum.
Ah, so... Wait.
Oh, there's Dudley.
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 Dudley, look, there's your friend. Uncle Sam.
Do not bring children.
Bring children. Wow.
Yeah, they had made him absorbed him.
Might have been a little scary for a child. Oh, wow. There's the somnambulist. I thought... I'm so confused. Look at that fancy walk.
Yeah.
I feel like he's got a little strut going on.
Yeah, he's got swag.
Yeah.
Somnambulist?
Somnambulist.
Sleepwalking guy.
Yeah.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
Get out of here.
Shoo. Shoo.
Wow, he's so excited you found my somnambulist. I don't know, they were like investigating him and then all of a sudden he was at the desk. And then they brought his guy to him. I just don't really understand.
Maybe the somnambulist has been drugged out the whole time and sleeping.
Yeah. They just keep pumping him full of morphine.
Oh, he has a doctor.
He's ready. Ah! Oh, he broke his book!
Okay, crazy.
Oh, that was a flashback. I missed that.
Oh, okay. It's a flashback.
Oh, so that's where he got the somnambulist?
I guess. Murder. That's all you need to know from this note is murder.
That makes well.
Can he be made to commit murder? Nay. Later. I don't know, his handwriting's really gotten worse.
So some story this film was written at, but it wasn't good handwriting.
Yeah. I gave it to the new PA. Write this up. I don't get paid enough for this.
This was typewriter, right? Or not?
That's a good question.
No, their typewriters were in the 1800s, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Is that one on the desk?
It looks
I
like an
can't
iteration of one, if
Yeah,
not
it does,
one.
doesn't it?
We should have taken notes.
Right.
Oh, he's using the force on him.
You know, doctors are notorious about having bad handwriting, so...
Yeah.
That is true.
It's true. Unless
I
no
must
one...
know. I will become...
Oh, so he's gonna become Caligari.
Okay, so he met about the 1099 guy, now he wants to be...
He's gonna do it.
Okay.
I have found myself a sleepwalker.
Follow your dreams.
Yeah.
Is that the goal?
Follow your dreams. Message of the film. Follow your dreams,
Right.
no matter how weird or hard it may be.
Right.
This is like reading one of those novels where you never know if you're in the past or in the future.
Yeah, they're not
Oh,
well organized here. And he's kind of running off screen.
Whoa.
Caligari.
That was a neat trick.
Somebody's calling
Oh.
his name. Caligari.
Oh, I see.
Oh, he's trying to summon.
He's hearing voices.
Right.
They turned the psycho back on him.
That was me the other day. Phew, what a rough one.
Just out there yelling Caligari. Oh, there's
Yeah.
6 acts. Thought there were only 5.
XR?
Too many, I think.
Don't worry, we'll be out of here in a tight
Those
90.
guys look like they're falling asleep.
Yeah. That one guy's totally out.
Well, this movie never ends.
Yeah, I think maybe there's a reason for the shorter versions.
Right.
Maybe there's a good reason for
At the
them.
bottom is the protagonist, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that office.
It looks like
That desk.
that bathtub.
Yeah, it does. It's the elevated bathtub.
If I had enough money, I would totally live in like a house that like had no.
Nothing made
it would
sense.
just be all like, yeah.
Shaped all over.
That's probably why I don't have a lot of money, because the universe knows, like, don't give it to him yet. He's just gonna spend it on warped furniture.
Spend it on a curvy house.
Yeah.
That chair, though.
Ooh, I like the trees too.
Oh, that's, they said found the somnambulist in her baby. I guess.
Oh, yeah. They showed him pass out there a long time ago. We're really flashing all over the place. I think they just did a flash sideways. All right, we're going to need 80 human to carry this guy.
Dun, 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 dun. I thought people were getting married.
They're never going to get that casket through that door.
No. That's the one problem with their architecture.
Right, yeah.
Not super
Moving-
efficient for moving
You think
furniture.
moving furniture with your friends is difficult in this world? Try doing it in a place
Try
where
doing it
nothing
here.
has 90 degrees.
Pivot!
Everything's stuck.
Ooh,
The circle is closing in, Dr. Caligari. Get out with your hands up.
With Caligari's face on them.
Twist.
Oh, he just walks so intriguingly.
Yeah. I trust that.
He's one of those
man.
guys who's so buff he can't put his arms down
Yeah.
to his side. He's got to
This
stay
is
out
my
there.
financial director. I trust him because he walks weird.
He walks with style.
This is my investment banker.
I could have done. You ever see the Monty
You'll
Python
never
Silly
take
Walks?
me alive. Boy, everyone gets
Oh, he's so happy.
somebody dies here.
hmm Talk about representation. There's not enough women in some of these scenes.
There've been like 3 in the whole movie.
I don't know if they're passing the Bechdel test.
Oh,
The
definitely
Bechdel
not.
test.
Definitely failed that.
Accuse. You accuse me?
Oh, he's strong.
Yeah. Buff.
Told you that's why he can't put his arms down.
Paid for linear foot of film.
Yeah. Too much. Wait.
Time up.
Oh, they took him. He seems concerned about it though, but he's also the one that turned them, showed them he's the bad guy. But then he's concerned that they're taking him away.
And they're rocking a straight jacket.
It almost looks like he doesn't have any pants on.
Yeah, I was about to say, are those exposed
I
legs?
think he
'Cause
does have
at
pants
that
on.
point, it would be racy.
Yeah, that'd be a lot.
That would
The
be
real
a
reason
lot.
not to bring your children to this movie.
Okay, so he's in a straitjacket.
Yeah.
I don't think that room or the paintings on it are gonna help his psychosis.
Right.
Yeah. Where's your team when you really need it?
Yeah.
That actually looks nice. I have a weighted blanket that I sleep with at home, and I think does the same thing as that. I'm pro weighted blanket.
I do like weighted blankets. They are nice. My dog tore
Just
mine up
hold
though.
me.
Yeah.
It's like I just want a big monster
What's,
to hold me.
The Hug Sleep. Have you seen those?
Mm-mm.
It's just like a sleeping bag, but it's like form-fitting, and it's like a sheet, breathable
Really?
sheet layer, and it just
You're talking my
totally
language.
sucked in.
Wait, your dog tore up your blanket?
My weighted blanket.
Dude, your dog's still in cars.
I know.
Weighted blankets.
Terrible.
Okay,
Oh, now
so
we're back.
at the beginning where the guy's telling the story.
The
Yeah.
frame, yeah.
They're sure talking slow. He's like, you, sir, are insane. He's a raving madman chained to his cell. Dr. Caligari is a raving madman chained to his cell. I'm not buying it. Oh, there's Dracula pulling that thing over.
Right.
So who's the guy telling the story?
He's the guy who helped them find Dr. Caligari just in the insane asylum. Alan? Maybe Alan.
Maybe Alan.
Alan. Alan.
His hands look weird.
And so the front is one's girlfriend.
I think so.
Yeah.
The what?
Okay.
The girl in
she's-
front's the girl.
Well, that guy's angry.
Ooh.
Whoa.
There's the somnambulist. Does he have like a squirrel on his shoulder?
Dun, 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 dun.
It's just recreating the time at the asylum.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh, it's a flower.
Like, get away from him. He's acting real strange.
See there, Caesar, if you let him, bro. Mm-hmm.
The other guy told the story to bring him back.
Yeah. Yeah, what it... Okay, that guy looks like the man from... He looks like the Phantom of the Opera.
And
Oh.
he imagines his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Jane, I love you. When will you marry me? I've been there. Left unseen. We who are of royal blood may not follow the wishes of our hearts.
God, talk about stuck up.
That is sad.
Oh, geez.
Gotta marry for.
Lipstick. Ooh.
Oh yeah. I like your headband.
That is nice.
Oversight, I'm sure.
Yeah. I can see the precursors here for the Bride of Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm. The Bride of Frankenstein. The Bride.
Frankenstein.
I wonder how family's name Frankenstein changed name after the book came out.
Yeah.
Feel like I gotta put it
Like,
into
yeah,
this.
this isn't gonna work anymore.
It's true.
That guy has no face.
It's like I feel bad for all the women named Alexa.
Dr. Caligari.
Caligari.
Oh yeah.
That's
Hey
rough.
Alexa.
Yeah.
Hey Siri. I've known a few Siris.
Really?
One.
I've never. Okay. I've known a few. Really? One. You fools. This man is doomed. Get him.
Hey, it's Caligari.
The film's original ending had the ghost of Alan at the cemetery.
Which would have really changed it, right? Because now we see that they're just all crazy.
He's
And,
the crazy one after all.
yeah. But if Alan's ghost comes up, then the whole story before was actually true.
I
He was
see.
killed by the somnambulist directed by...
Right.
So it actually changes the whole meaning. I think that's where they try to tone down the political undertones to say, oh, see, these crazy people don't trust the government or our authority.
Right.
Versus the other way, it's saying, see, we need to not trust them because look at what they're doing. But it totally changes the meaning.
Somebody.
Yeah. Or is the whole story before true and Caligari's now brainwashed him? You always see those, the common thing in like mystery shows where it's like, oh, they've been drugging this patient to make them think they were crazy the whole time, but they were fine.
Right.
Like,
Or Caligari, the crazy head of the insane thought.
yeah, he's
They're
like
all
the
right.
leader.
He believes me to be the mystical astonishing. Well,
Murder.
we're in.
I'm gonna kill him with murder.
Yeah, murder.
Murder. Murder him.
What happened to
this
the-
is the ambulance. Yeah.
Get him. Make him dead.
I'm a big fan of killing people with kindness, you know?
Well, at least the doctors seem to.
I just don't like to kill people, whether with kindness or knives.
One takes a lot longer.
Yeah, it's just a lot
The
of work.
end.
Well, we
Wake
know
up,
your take on
it's over.
It.
We did it. They
What
said it couldn't be done, and we did
film.
it.
We made it with technology working against us. Yep. Somehow we made it.
Hmm.
We had.
Including me.
Oh yeah.
Thank you for coming on and joining us. It was really a blast getting to watch all these, despite all of our technical difficulties.
Yeah.
So
You know what? It's part of it. It's part of the
Looking
fun.
into the 1950s.
yes,
Ooh,
we
yeah.
will have to bring
I
you
got
back
lots
for
of
sure.
movies from the 1950s.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I had a
this
lot
is-
of fun, and it was nice to meet you and
Yes.
talk about silent films and movies and all the good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this was a great walkthrough.
Good night.
Silent film.
Bye, Deadly.
Bye, Deadly.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Tune out now. Thank you guys.
All right. Yep.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, no, it
Thank
was
you.
cool to see the evolution,
Yeah.
and it was surprisingly entertaining just seeing just how
Yeah.
far it's come, because, I mean, it's just exponential. I mean, just
Yeah.
thinking about, where everything has been going.
Yeah. Yeah, and like Caligari is a great film, but I do see the benefits of the shorter cuts that have
Right.
come. And of course, being in the public domain, we don't get the new restored versions because those are copyrighted. So we're watching a lower quality version.
Right.
But if you haven't seen this film, watch it. Watch a good quality version on YouTube.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's cool to see the progression up to here.
right.
And just the innovation and how people can work and figure things out. Like, literally, like here, we're like, oh, I want to figure out how they did this in a movie or how they did this. Well, they were saying, we want to figure out how to do something that we pictured in our head.
Right.
Like,
right.
maybe that's the better way to go about things. Not,
Yeah.
oh, how did they do that? That's really cool. But how do I do what I want to do?
Yeah.
And let's make it happen.
Right. Right.
And I think that's the trick. That's something we ask a lot here when people come. They're like, I want to make this. What should I do? Well, let's figure out what you want to make. Like, oh, I want to start making stuff. Where should I start? And then the answer is always like, what do you want to make? Let's get you there.
Right.
You have to know
right.
what you want to make
Yeah.
to be able to learn how to make it.
Yeah. Well, and I even connect with people on like, what do you want to say? And if your idea is bigger, is there a way that you can say it smaller? You
Yeah.
know? And like
All
what's
about it.
achievable. And that's what I loved about it is that they made do with what they had.
Yep.
They didn't stop at like, that's not good enough. It's like, no, that's what we can do. Let's do it. You
Yeah.
know?
And it worked because I am not going to go full around with paraffin now.
Yeah.
So
that's truly the
They
lesson.
figured out how to get that
Yeah.
across, and it worked.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really is. Figure out what to do. And like for us, it's kind of like, oh, if only I could do what they're doing over here, what they have here, and they have this budget. For them, it was like, how can I figure out how to do anything?
Right.
How do I do it? How do I do what I want to do?
Well, and what I love is like the idea of someone like, okay, I'm going to be an actor in the 1910s, and there's no context, there's no celebrity, there's no like
Yep.
glamour really in it. I'm sure there was
Yeah.
like some amazement, but like what are you doing?
Yeah.
And then to like do it.
At times in history, actors have been looked down upon as a lower class. So I think, obviously, movies have changed that. And so, like, to jump into this new art form, I think was just really incredible. And you did see the progression from these over-the-top stage actors, because you have to exaggerate on stage for everyone to follow, to starting to tone it back a little bit. And obviously, we're still at a time, ending in 1920, we're still at a time where there's some overacting and some big gestures. But yeah, it's a fun journey, and I like that kind of method. Let's just see where this went.
Right.
Took a little longer than I thought.
It's all right. I'm down.
But,
I'm here. I'm here to
yeah.
play. Let's do it.
It's what it's all about, right? So, yeah, thank you everyone for joining us for our walk through silent horror film history. Hope you'll join us next time.
Yeah, this is great.
Well done, Matt.
Yeah.
We made it.
And I mean, I do love this
thank
new
you.
setup.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you, Anthony. You're the unsung hero of this
The
shoot.
hero.